Okay. Okay, it is Monday, April 13th, and it is 6:30 PM. We will call the regular meeting of the East Bay Charter Township Board to order, and if you will join me, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nathan, do you think you could see if you can pop up that laptop and if we've got a screen going there? Claire might help you when she comes back in too. We'll have somebody remoting in a little bit later. Okay, great. We'll begin with roll call, Ann.
M. Cortade.
Here.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Walters.
Present.
S. Cortade.
Here.
Here.
Lyle.
Here.
And Friend.
Yes, here. All right, with that, we will review the agenda for conflict of interest. On the agenda, under the consent agenda, you do have a road naming for Backcountry Drive, a brine agreement, the investment policy. We'll have some reports from the county and Metro, and then we'll move into our township reports with the ambulance, the assessing, the Parks Commission, which does have a DNR grant resolution update, a library roof replacement. We will not be going through the township hall and parking lot today. And under planning and zoning, we're looking at a grant agreement, and that grant agreement is on your desk. That was not available at the end of last week. We have the introduction for the special events ordinance, rezoning, as well as the department's report, financial report, and then the lift station number 1 sewer main project, the easements for Holiday Village cul-de-sac, and the TCAPS field house and well house agreement. So with that, are there any declarations of a conflict of interest? Okay. Is there an approval for the agenda, noting that the Township Hall and Library parking lot, which is item 8B3, 3, is not going to be on the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda with the correction.
Oh, support.
Okay, there's a motion by Bartlett and support by Cook. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously, and we will move on to public comment. Now is the time for public comment, and we do have some rules for public comment. Ann, can you go over those generally?
Sure. Let's see, where's my sheet? There it is. Okay. Any person shall be permitted to address the Township Board, which is required to be open to the public for the Open Meetings Act. If you want to address the board, please stand up, come to the microphone, and state your name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer board's questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time, and it should not exceed 3 minutes. Whenever individuals want to trade their minutes for a group and a group wishes to address the board, the chairperson may require that the group designate a spokesperson. The board generally will not comment or respond to your presenter. Silence or non-response shall not be interpreted as disinterest or disagreement by the board. Good
Thank
night.
you. Yes, thank you very much. So this is the opportunity for public comment. Please come up to the podium and introduce yourself, please.
Front and center, Pat. And this is the first time I've ever done this, so I'm not sure. But I'm real
Can you pull the
concerned
mic down?
about my road.
Yep, could you introduce yourself?
Pat Cleanup,
And I'm Chris DeRozier.
and we're neighbors on King Grove Avenue.
Okay.
And we have a big concern with our potholes. And we're wondering if something is going to be done about them.
Okay.
So can you answer that question?
Well, this is public comment, so we don't engage in back and forth during public comment. This is a time when you can let us know your perspective and your opinions on something, and then we take that in as information, and we move on to our agenda on our meeting.
I have some opinions. One thing, when they do fill the holes, it only lasts about a day, somebody drives over them and they're all out.
All that plus the traffic. We've got Culver's and Denny's and another business that back up to Pine Grove. And there's a lot of traffic that comes up and down. And some of those, I mean, the potholes, and we understand that there's been an issue with the water table and all of that for many years, but some of these potholes are incredibly huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And I don't know if they can be filled with something other than that tar or, I don't know, gravel, maybe? Something.
And my son, when he raked our front yard, my front yard this year, he got a lot of that, little pieces of that stuff that was on our yard, that he got up when he,
Out of the road?
out of the road, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
On our yard. And also, I have a suggestion maybe, no trucks allowed, heavy trucks. Because that pavement is not thick enough for them to go through.
Okay. Or if you're done, I just wanted to, well, you can just, why don't you make public comment right after? But I did want to just maybe have you leave your contact information with our recording secretary, Ann, over there, and I'd be happy to get back with you later this week. And also, yeah, reach out to the road commission as well.
Okay. And then Brad,
Thank you.
Brad Rickland, I'm Pat's son,
Okay.
and I'm her do-it-all, clean-all, and fix-all. I try to. Chris helps with everything too. She's a great neighbor, but it's not safe for my mother to walk down the road. And I think, she's lived there, been there for 50 years plus. And there's a lot of elderly in the neighborhood, and they need that to get out. The road needs to be redone, not just filled. They've got pictures to show you. Hopefully they leave some of them with you. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. No, oh, totally, I think there probably isn't anybody who would,
And they need to be able to walk down the road.
yeah. I'm sure no one would disagree with you that the road is in disrepair. Just to let you know, we don't have the authority over roads. However, we do collaborate as much as we can with residents and with the road commission, and I'll get in touch with you regarding that.
I appreciate it.
And also, you guys have seen a lot of increased traffic over the past 3 days since the construction, and we've been trying to do what we can that's within our abilities. It is an MDOT project. It is a road commission road, but we're definitely trying to work with our project partners to do what we can.
I have just an example of what happened a few years ago I wanted to tell you about too. My daughter and I came out here and asked them about the roads and talked to, not Sue, but
She talked to me.
Tracy. And I think she must have called the road commission after we left, because that night they were out there fixing in the middle of the night, they were fixing the hole.
And that's a positive.
Well, that is, and you came to the right meeting, because of course Dan, I'm going to rat you out. He's here for the road commission. That is our road commission manager.
He opened his notebook when he started talking.
So again, you came to the right meeting, so
Okay, so we need to talk to him, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you.
absolutely. Other public comment? Hello, could you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. My name is Brandon Flensky, East Bay Township resident. My comment this evening is regarding the introduction to the special event ordinance, currently known as the Transient Activities and Business Ordinance. Before the board takes any action on the version of the ordinance in tonight's packet, I would like to voice concern that the current wording of the ordinance is going to make the issue worse. Northern Michigan, including East Bay Township, is increasingly popular destination for visitors, especially those planning big events like weddings, reunions, and retreats. If you need proof, do a quick Google search of the phrase "wedding venues, Northern Michigan." The number of hits you will get for Traverse City and the area nearby is alarming, and it gets longer every day. Since I moved here in 2017, the growth has been very noticeable. The reason for this increase in demand is simple. Northern Michigan has natural beauty that other areas lack, either because they never had it or because they had it and they lost it to development. But the natural beauty of East Bay Township that is so valuable to the residents and visitors will be lost if the area is aggressively developed as a destination for big event tourists. To protect against the spoiling of our area's natural beauty and character, the special events ordinance ought to include the flourishing hospitality industry to regulate the growth of big event destinations, so our township does not turn into the next Niagara Falls. The township is doing the right thing in creating a special event ordinance, but the current wording of the ordinance misses the point. If the ordinance does not apply to family reunions, quote, family reunions, weddings, receptions, picnics, and similar events lasting no more than 24 hours, then it's not doing any good, and it's not a solution. It seems to me that the second section of the definition of special events was adjusted or added in order to give tourism industry a free pass. The definition of special events should apply to commercial operations, especially in areas zoned for residential use. If businesses are going to use East Bay Township as the destination for hired gatherings of more than 75 people, they should have to apply to the township for a special event permit, similar to the way that the current ordinance works. This would allow the township to stay ahead of problems or catastrophes that might come from large commercialized gatherings. For example, traffic congestion, parking problems, water and sewerage failures, excessive noise, crowding of public spaces like parks and lakes. All these things could get bad if too many people descend upon East Bay Township too frequently without adequate planning. I respectfully ask that the board allow time for a proposed amendment to the draft ordinance that addresses all of the concerns and priorities. Before promoting this draft ordinance to a public hearing, I ask that the board consider a version which will give the township a chance to control the growth of destination tourism before it gets out of hand. I sincerely thank you all for your service to our community. Have a great night.
Thank you, Brandon. Any additional public comment? Okay, with that, we will move on to correspondence and report. I will ask the board just to give me a little latitude on approval of the agenda. When we approve that, I don't want to change anything, but I would like to move an order here of one item up. I see someone here who's waiting for one of the last two items. So that item number 7, I would like to move up under, after 8A and before 7B. So we'll move that. Is everyone fine with that? Okay, well, we'll move forward then. In your packet are correspondence and reports. In there you have the standard road commission updates. You have the annual report from Traverse Connect. You have a report from the clerk's office, the treasurers, and the supervisors, as well as your meeting links for our different boards that are provided. Any questions or comments on the correspondence and reports? Okay, then we will move to the consent agenda. Ann, if you could go over that.
The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent agenda, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. This evening, you have minutes, March 9th, 2026 regular meeting, and the March 24th joint meeting with the CIP. General Fund, check numbers 20252 through 20314 in the amount of $190,337.91. From the Emergency Fund, check numbers 6187 through 6210 were paid in the amount of $65,662.95. From the Receiving Fund, check numbers 3016 through 3021 for $147,931.91. From the Escrow Fund, check numbers 2140 through 2144 in the amount of $22,514.01. The Roads Fund, no checks were issued. There were 4 payrolls from the payroll dated February 22nd through March 7th. Check numbers 8007 through 8010 totaled $85,355.89. The payroll dated March 8th through March 21st. Check numbers 8011 through 8013 totaled $86,758.05. And there was just 1 payroll on March 21st, 2026. Check numbers 8014 through 8015, and that totaled $786.87. And the payroll dated March 21st through April 4th, check numbers 8016 through 8018, and that totaled $89,929.98. Total payroll was $259,830.79, and total amount paid $686,277.57. We have no proposed budget adjustments, and you have 3 other items: the road naming for Backcountry Drive, Grand Traverse County Road Commission Bryan Agreement, and the investment policy.
Thank you very much, Ann. And just for a little bit more specifics, those 3 other items, the action would be that the Backcountry Drive name would be approved, that the Bryan Agreement would be approved for 2 applications, and that the investment policy would be noted as reviewed and pass that resolution 2026-13.
I do have one correction.
Okay?
On the payroll for 321 through 44, that total amount is $86,929.98. When you stated it, you did 89.
Oh, yes, you are right.
Okay. So with that, would anybody from member of the board like anything removed from the consent agenda? Okay, would anybody from a member of the public like anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll bring that back to the board for a potential motion and support. I would move to adopt the consent agenda as presented. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Friend and support by Cook. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, Ann?
Friend,
Yes?
Cook,
Yes.
M. Cortade,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
S. Cortade,
Yes.
Lyle.
Okay, and with that, thank you very much. We'll move to business before the Township Board. We do have the Grand Traverse County Road Commission here. So Dan, happy to have you. This is Dan Watkins, the County Road Commission Manager. How are you tonight? I bet.
It's been a busy day.
I bet.
Thought I'd start off a little bit talking about that last snowstorm we had that really finished off the winter for us. That was a pretty impressive amount of snow. So our crews were out for several days straight, and the snow, the consistency I kept comparing it to was like wet concrete. Our trucks really struggled with it, and then the amount of snow we had. I want to say we were averaging getting our truck stuck 100 times a day, so it took us a lot longer to get everything plowed out than we thought it would. Just dealing with the pier, what it was, and it was something different. It was an eye-opener for a lot of our crews. We haven't seen anything like that since like our 2012 storm. So that last storm really pushed us over on our snow totals. And unfortunately, our budget of, salt, sand, material usage, blade usage. But overall, we're in pretty good shape as we finish up the year. We still have supplies for everything on hand. This last little rainstorm definitely gave us a run for our money today. So we've been out opening up culverts and drainage issues. I've been doing that all day. Actually, I finally took off my waders to come in here. So I think we're in good shape right now. Unfortunately, they're talking more rain tonight. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. Moving into a couple of updates. We do have our project list now for our road projects this year on our website. It's our 2026 project list. You can see that on there. A couple of things to highlight. This year, we're doing about $17.5 million worth of work. That's the most we've ever done before. A couple of projects that we're doing here in East Bay Township is obviously Hammond Road. Really looking forward to that project. Looking to try to mirror that with your guys' sidewalks and bidding that out here in early May. So we're really looking forward to that project. Definitely needed. Town Line Road, we're going to do another chip seal on that. So it's going to be a double chip on there. We did that heavy wedge last year. We're hopeful to see what that does. I've driven it a few times. I'm surprised how well it looks, happily surprised, I'd say, for we did that kind of, trial, let's see what happens, repair. It's held up pretty decent throughout the winter, so very happy about that. Another project that we're doing in the Hammond Road project is we're actually replacing the light out here. So lights are another thing that we need to start cycling through on our replacement cycle. They're on about a 20-year replacement cycle. They're about $500,000 to replace a light. We have an aging system. We have 26 lights total within the county, so we're trying to cycle those through. So we're going to take care of that one here while we're doing that project this year. So it's an additional project. Another one to start considering here, it's going to affect everybody, definitely with the Hammond corridor there, Beitner Road Bridge. We're looking at replacing that probably over the winter of 2027, so the end of this year. Might even start the end of 2026. That is going to be a full closure on Beitner Road there. So we're going to have to find some alternative means of getting around. So it's going to be a big one, trying to give everybody a heads up and start to warn them about it. A couple other things I want to talk about is really been working on our long-term planning, and I think I've probably mentioned it before that I was trying to work on this. We did that countywide car count on our asphalt. So if you go to our website now, you go to the main website and you scroll all the way to the bottom, it says car count. So you can click on that, and then it shows the entire county, and it's a lot of information to take in. But you can click on that. You can click on, say, just East Bay Township, and it would zoom right into East Bay Township, and it only show the roads within East Bay. Now, you wanted to say, well, Garfield Township's next to us. What's happening for traffic going back and forth? If you click on Garfield, you can see those two roads. Currently, the state counts are on there as well. You could shut off all the county roads if you just want to look at the state roads. So it's kind of interesting to see where that's going. But also, you can actually start to follow traffic where they come down a road. Say you're seeing 2,000 cars on this road, and all of a sudden it drops down to like 1,000 cars. But then a side road goes off and there's 1,000 cars there. You can really start to see where people are going. So based off that information, before I've talked about how we drove all the roads with kind of like a Google Earth with trans maps, and we have all the road ratings. So we're putting that together with the road ratings and the ratings of the road with the car counts, and we're actually really close to putting a long-term plan together. We're hoping to reveal that here probably sometime in May with all that data put together, and it's actually going to show us a direction to go to help our overall network. So really excited about that, something we've been trying to get to here for a couple of years. Getting ready now with spring coming on, we're doing the big switch over. We're getting ready to do high ridging. I know I've talked about that in the years, trying to get that water off the roads. Really important to get that upper lip off there and get that water out of there. So we're getting ready to start doing high ridging, ditching. And then all of our materials have been bid out this year. Things came back in for our gravel, our long line painting, our guardrail, our chip seals repairs. So everything actually came in pretty decent. Some small increases, but nothing that was overly alarming. We were seeing really positive initial prices for doing our road projects, asphalt, like 10% under engineers' estimates. The last few years, they've been 20% over engineers' estimates. We're really excited about that. Unfortunately, with what we're seeing here with recent fuel prices going up, we're concerned that 10% under, we're going to lose that. But hopefully those gas prices go back down. And obviously that affects everything, making the asphalt, the petroleum in the asphalt, transporting the asphalt. So we're hopeful. We were really excited here in the spring, thinking we were going to be able to do some more work, but we'll see where that goes. Just want to talk a little bit too about the new fuel bills that have came out, new fuel funding. So we were looking at, I think I've talked about it a little bit before, that we were looking at some additional funding coming to us. The way it all went down and what they did, we have not seen that. We're actually, they stopped some programs before the new ones kicked in. So far this year, we're averaging about 11% decrease in funding per month. So that's where we're at right now. So hopefully, they're saying towards the end of the year, we should start to catch back up and see that coming through. But so far, the new road funding bills have not came through like they told us they would.
So you don't think you'll see a net increase by the end of the year?
They're saying there should be some catch up, but as of right now, we've been averaging 11% under.
Okay.
So we'll have to see what happens here the second half of the year if we actually do start to see that funding. So luckily, we do have that one mill within the county millage. That's what we're doing our road projects off of, is the millage this year. But that was my update for tonight. And of course, I'm always available for any questions.
I think, just so you know, and it saves us an email, right? Where I've heard of several people requesting some maintenance of the potholes that we see so much pop up in the spring. They come up before the daffodils. East Potter Road in that Chandler area. And of course, we know we're looking at an SAD there, so we're still probably at least maybe a year away from that. But in the interim, they were hoping you could just kind of, your guys could hit maybe those deep spots. And also over off of I'm trying to think of the name, Scout Camp. We have a couple spots, and I think we visited about that a little bit, where someone was mentioning there's some specific washout for some reasons, but they had some deep spots there, I guess. And then the other, of course, is Pine Grove. And that is exacerbated too by the MDOT project. We did, and thank you guys for your input and MDOT's, we did push out some messaging today about trying to get that traffic out of the neighborhood, and that was picked up by the ticker, so we're hopeful that a lot of people see that. Also, we'll be having our patrols in there more often, and the sheriff was very supportive of having it on the daily log for just general road patrol, so that when they have extra time or ability to just cruise through that area, that is the kind of cars we want through there, because just, slow people down. But, any suggestions that you have as far as, if there's an opportunity to do signage for being a neighborhood and not the route. I did talk with MDOT about that, and they have very strict protocols on what they can provide or do provide with respect to MDOT. And I know you guys do too as well, but if there is any latitude there, I know that would go a long way with those homeowners. The other thing was some law enforcement did also wonder if there's an ability to even close off those roads, because right now we can't ticket anybody taking that as a detour, even though it's not the official detour. We can't ticket them because it's a thorough public road. But if we were to, the road commission potentially could close that off to anything but local roads. I don't know the process to do that. I've never been involved with that or suggested it before, but they did.
Easy thing to do.
That's what I was
because
wondering.
you can't deny access to people to drive down local roads.
Okay,
And try to detour or recommend that they don't, but you can't deny accessibility, so.
yeah. It's a
Very
tough one.
frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't agree with all of the laws they have out there for roads.
And it's just a tough location, that sub, because they have access to Parsons, 3 Mile, and US 31 North, so they usually get hit pretty hard with the construction, so we'll try to do what we can, for sure. But definitely the potholes, as were mentioned earlier, too.
Perfect. Hopefully, we're really close to Elmer's firing up. That's where they have the hot mix asphalt. This time of year, we use what's called cold patch, and it doesn't last as long. So hopefully, the plants are very close to firing up here. Now we're getting some warmer weather, and that makes a big difference in those potholes.
Yeah, well, those are the 3 places that I've heard of through the past, I'd say, 6 weeks or so.
Perfect. I will pass these along to the road foreman in the morning.
Appreciate that. Thanks. And I also want to extend appreciation for the road commission, and our staff have been working well together in coordinating the safe routes to school, and they're doing Hammond Road and the light there too. So trying to get those all let at the same time to potentially get the same contractor. So not only do we think there'd be some efficiencies, just time and money, hopefully, just even from the public watching the project, it would be a little bit more seamless instead of, coming back twice with 2 projects. So appreciate the coordination with that.
Definitely, thank you.
Thanks. All right, well, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions for Dan? Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. All right, and with that, let's see, we will move on to Grand Traverse Metro. We have Chief Mackin here. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Good, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And you have a nice report for us.
Yes, I have the 2025 annual report. About 28 pages, but going to overview a few things or some of the highlights. So bear with me. Yeah, this report was prepared in-house by our staff, administrative staff members compiled the report, essentially just an overview, insight into all of our work over the past year, that all of our members did, the services that we provide to the community. Just a bit of a snapshot of who we are, what we do, and what we've accomplished throughout the year. I'm extremely proud of the report and the personnel that work with me at GT Metro. So just kind of skimming through a couple of the first pages here, the information about us tells a little bit about the authority, which I know you're all familiar with. Serving the 3 townships, not the full county as we keep reference to on the news a lot of times, but covering 110 square miles. Talks a little bit about our operations, our staffing, our fire prevention bureau, and other aspects of our organization. Our mission to serve our community by safeguarding life and property from fire hazards and other emergencies. We support that mission through our vision and our values, which we have had in place for a number of years and we remain committed to. Jumping to page 6 is an introduction of our board members who do provide the oversight and guidance for our administrative personnel, and without their support we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do, so we do appreciate that. I say that since there's 2 of them here. So. Jumping to page 7, there's just a general overview of the organization, how it's structured, the hierarchy, kind of separating the different divisions of the organization between our operations, where our staff, our firefighters and officers work, and our fire prevention bureau, where our inspectors, investigators, plan reviewers, and public educators. And that's all obviously supported by our administrative staff. Page 8 is a financial overview. Just gives you a snapshot of our overall budget from 2025, just over $7 million. The large majority of that operating cost was dedicated to personnel costs at just over 70%. That's followed by our operations capital and other service charges and our debt payments. A couple notes in the year. The budget, we did wind up doing some investment in our fleet. We did commit to some purchases of apparatus. We did sell some surplus apparatus, which did bring in just over $400,000 in surplus funds, which we were able to put into our PIF fund to utilize for future apparatus purchases. Strategically, we also were able to meet over $380,000 in scheduled debt obligations. We did a $350,000 early down payment on a ladder truck, which we had previously ordered. We did get a prepayment discount on that, so there was a little bit of money that came off the overall purchase price by doing that. That is scheduled for delivery this June. We do have pictures of it under construction. We also invested some money into improvements in stations, but all in all, we were able to do that with this budget and still maintain the 2.75 mil that has been supported by our townships. Next couple pages, our stations, you'll see the incident heat map, and then obviously it'll go into our response area, which is very similar. On the incident heat map on page 10, it just gives you an idea of those clusters of calls, those hot spots where we see a lot of reoccurring calls. It's not a full representation of every little individual call throughout our response area, but those clusters, typically a lot of those are healthcare facilities, senior homes, places where we might see a lot of calls. That's where you see those hot spots. And our response area is very similar. It's highlighted on the next page. Moving on to page 12, we talk about our call volume and our calls for service. In 2025, we averaged 19 calls of service per day. And in that, there's a couple different bar graphs here that are quite interesting. The top one represents our time of day for most frequent calls. You can see the time, typically our peak calls are between 10 and noon, 10 in the morning and noon, and 2 and 4 at night, or 2 and 4 in the afternoon, I should say. So that's typically when we see our highest call volumes, an interesting metric there. Our call volume day of the week, typically Tuesdays and Thursdays are our busiest days. A lot of times people will think that, weekends and all the activity and things that go on, we might be busier, but Sunday is actually our lowest call volume day of the week. When we come into the months, the middle of the summer months are our busiest. Our June, July, August represent our largest call volumes, and that's just followed closely by January and then October. So kind of like to say it's our J's, our June, July, and January seem to be kind of our busiest. So our summer months, early in the year, and then beginning of fall is when we see our highest call volumes. Turning to page 13, again, talking about those call volumes of that percentage, that 7,014 calls, 72% of them, as you would expect, are emergency medical or rescue calls. We've had just over 5,000 of those incidents. Followed closely not closely, but second largest call volume would be our good intent call, which is a variety of different things. It can be from anything from steam coming off a roof that gets called in as a roof smoking or potential fire, to other good intent calls that were, things that really didn't wind up being emergency incidents when we got there. So a little bit of a breakdown of our calls, the call types. We did highlight, which I will at another page, our training and the hours that our personnel put in. On the next page, we talk a little bit more about our fire operations and all the different ancillary functions that our personnel do. They do a variety of specialized skills, anything from child passenger safety technicians to peer support, apparatus committee, medical advisory committee, small engine repair, and then some of our fleet maintenance. Some interesting facts on the bottom of this page. 66% of our EMS incidents were for township residents, that live within the authority. We had 27 basic life-saving kits used, or 27 times our basic life-saving kits were used. 104 was the oldest patient that we did treat, and we did have 20 successful resuscitations of patients. So that's something that we're extremely proud of. Moving on, training is fundamental to our personnel, just maintaining those skills so that they're prepared to handle all the different responses that they may encounter throughout a shift day. Our personnel put in over 10,000 total hours of training. A couple other highlights for us throughout that year is we did receive some grant funding, which we were proud of. We did receive grant funding from the Cosgrove Foundation to purchase 2 of our EV safety plugs. These are plugs that you can use to disable electric vehicles that are involved in a motor vehicle crash or fire. So that's all good things. We were happy to get those throughout the year. Also, in regards to our operation, we as our call volumes increase, we need to continually assess our training. Like, for example, when you talk about the EV training and emergency vehicle or battery storage systems and things like that start coming into play, these are the areas that we have to kind of tweak and highlight our training on. On the bottom of the page 16 highlights our annual call volumes over the past 12 years. As you can see, as I mentioned, in 2025, we had just over 7,000 calls. That was an 11% increase from 2024. And in 2024, we had a 4.1% increase from 2023. So again, we're starting to see some significant double-digit increases in the percentages of our annual calls.
What do you think is the biggest increase in that 11% jump?
That 11% jump is primarily just some of the demographics. A lot of those were medical type calls. We have a growing population. We also have an aging population as well. And we do have a number of medical senior facilities that are kind of driving that. So it's a variety of medical calls that are really driving that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So move into our fire inspection investigations on page 19. We did document in here, there's a number of different statistics here, but our largest single fire involved a single-family dwelling with an estimated building and content loss of $675,000. That was our largest. I will equate that to the fact that we did preserve about 99% of the property value of the authority, and that was more than $273 million in property and content and value that's there. So it is a significant loss, but in relation to what was saved or what's been protected, it's a smaller number. Obviously, we'd be happy with zero, but again, we're doing our diligence through inspectional activities and fire prevention to try and keep those down low. A couple other facts here, talk about our top causes for fire in buildings and structures. Cooking is number one, followed by electrical equipment, and then smoking materials. There's a little bit of information about our violations in 2025. Our top violations are simple in inspections of businesses and things like that. Means of egress, illumination, some other inspection, testing, maintenance, people not keeping up on the systems, portable fire extinguishers, all of those things. Page 20, we kind of highlight our Safe Neighborhood campaign. In 2025, we visited over 91 homes. We checked 345 alarms. We found 85 non-functioning and 25 houses with no smoke alarms. So we wound up installing 249 smoke alarms, 54 carbon monoxide alarms, 2 disability alarms, and then 1 gas carbon monoxide alarm. So again, that's a service that we provide. We try to get the word out to the public just so that we can get those alarms in the homes and the residences that they're needed. Turning to page 21, some information about our public education program. Obviously, we had, this was Katie's first full year working with us in that program. She's been doing a great job. Just at a glance, she checked 157 car seats. We had 91 friends and family CPR attendees. We had 260 people attend our fire extinguisher training, and 184 people attended the matter of balance classes. On the following page, our community outreach events, over 2,400 people attended those, and then our school programs, we had over 4,700 attendees of those programs. So again, a lot of good programs. Katie's been doing a great job of getting the education, get the messaging out there, and we're extremely proud of the work that she's doing. The next couple pages highlight our team, who we're extremely proud of, for the people out there doing the work. Couldn't ask for a better team. And then jumping to page 27, 28 to kind of round things off, we have a little bit of recognition. In 2025, we did recognize the crew that did respond to the Walmart incident in the summer. Those members were issued a unit citation in recognition of their meritorious service and exceptional performance during this incident. Again, those personnel, along with law enforcement, our EMS, East Bay EMS, and MMR, and other people that responded, truly saved lives that day. So we were very proud to recognize them for that. Also, another important milestone in training is Captain Spencer Scanlon. He completed the Eastern Michigan University Staff and Command School, 350-hour course focused on leadership, personnel management, and fiscal stewardship in the fire service. So He's the 5th member of Metro to attend that course, so extremely proud of him and his accomplishments. And last but not least, on January 28th, we did have our employee recognition ceremony where we were proud to award Lieutenant Kyle Clute with the Chief Wayne Hanna Memorial Prevention Award. We were awarded firefighter Peter Bean as our EMS Provider of the Year, Lieutenant Michael Thomas as our Fire Officer of the Year, and firefighter Doug Dombeck as Firefighter of the Year. Be happy, that does complete the report. I know I kind of went through it quickly, but I know you have a full agenda tonight, so.
It's all good stuff.
Yeah,
It's all
very
good stuff.
Very happy.
Yeah.
Any questions from anybody?
Does anyone have
Comments?
any questions?
No?
Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
We
you.
appreciate it very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to Barb Boersma is here with the ambulance report. How are you, Barb?
Good evening, everybody. We had a busy start of our year for our first quarter. Each time I've done the top 5 patient impressions, they've been vastly different for each quarter. And this year, or this last quarter was generalized weakness was our most frequent diagnosis. And that just goes along with a busy flu season. It's just typically sick people. Our call volume, our shortest month, February, was the busiest month at 92 calls. Falls and motor vehicle accidents were our biggest traumas. And when our residents fall, we don't always take them to the hospital. We do a lot of what we call lift assists. And if somebody falls in their home and they're not injured, we just pick them up, trying to educate them a little bit on safe practices in their house, remove rugs that are hip tripping hazards, and that kind of stuff. But falls seem to be a really dangerous thing for elderly people. So we try to do a lot of education when it comes to those falls as well. We got our 2% grant for our mechanical stair chair. We love it. They did not want to wait to put it on the new truck. They wanted it in the truck now. So once they got trained on it, it is on our primary truck, and it does work really well. It's a little heavier than our older ones, but it does all the work for us, so it is definitely a back saver. Our new employees are fitting in really well. Scott was a part-time employee, so we worked with him before. He's been in this county for a long time. We all know him really well, but he's fitting in really well full-time, as is Chelsea. Chelsea's doing really well. She comes with a lot of experience. She's a critical care paramedic. She's got teaching credentials to be able to do a lot of teaching, so between her and I, we can do all of our continuing education in-house. And then Lottie has also started. She's a part-time EMT, and we've all known Lottie for a really long time, and we all get along really well with her. So they're all fitting in really well, and they were all really good hires. So that was the beginning of the year. And then back in February, Nick and I went down to Florida to do the inspection on the new truck that was finished. There were several items that we had them fix or just kind of tweak a little bit, little chips in the paint, that kind of thing. All of that stuff has been fixed except for one issue, and that is the climate control doesn't talk to each other between the front and the back. There's a little glitch in there. So it is in Holland. It has been delivered to the Holland area. The cot and power load are in. We're just waiting to get that programming issue between the front and the back climate control, and then it'll be delivered hopefully next week. So I got to see the factory and how it worked and how they built the ambulances, and it was a learning experience. I did not know how they built ambulances, but they build them with safety in mind, and they build them custom to what you want, and these are definitely safe ambulances. So we were very pleased with the work that they did on it, and I included some pictures of the build process, and once they get going on it, it goes pretty quick. It takes a long time to get to that build process, but once they get there, it's a pretty neat process.
Very good. I know we saw pictures too of the ladder truck that was getting built, and that was pretty interesting to just even see the pictures, because I hadn't seen one, being constructed, so.
Starts out with just flat sheet metal, and they
Yeah.
just bend it. Everything is custom to right down to the size of the cabinet you want, and they start bending it, and they is the least amount of seams as possible and the strongest amount of strongest joints that they can make, just to make it safe for everybody. It was a good experience.
Good. Does anyone have any questions for Barb? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. All right, with that, we will move on to the assessing department. Ryan Porty is here after March Board of Review. How are you, Ryan?
Doing really well. How's everybody doing?
Good.
All right. Assessing department's just wrapped up our 2026 assessing cycle, and we're full speed ahead into 2027. March Board of Review went off without a hitch. We had about 16 property owners came in for the review process, and our 3 board members, I really want to give them a lot of kudos for how they handled things. Our board members, Sharon Vreeland, Chairman, Dave Blausfield, and actually Dan, who just left, was one of our members. They took great care, time, and consideration with each decision. They listened intently. They read all the information thoroughly and asked very inquisitive questions to make the best judgments that they could to be correct and fair. And I'd like to thank them for doing the important township work. All of the final data, reports, maps for the 2026 year are on the East Bay website. You can go and look at any of those things. We are a paper-friendly township now. Everything is, we get to save on the computer, so they're out there and can be viewed by anybody. Some department updates. I just completed my 2nd year up here. I can't believe it's been 2 years already. I'm still very happy to be here. The township's been great to work with. I feel very well supported, so thank you for that. Isaac, who is not here right now, he's my right-hand guy. He's a workhorse out in the field, on the phones with the public. He's very knowledgeable, he's thorough, he's consistent, he's very attentive to details, and he's about halfway through his level 3 assessing class right now, and doing a really good job at that. This past winter, I got to add some assessing duties to Taylor Richards. She's our office manager here. We got her to do the MCAT certification so she can legally answer some assessing questions and take care of some of our mail and update into the computer. I hope to be able to get her to do a few more things the more comfortable as she can, because that takes a little off of my plate, but a lot off of Isaac's plate, and we'd like to get him out in the field even a little bit more. So that's a good thing. Also, our new Ford Bronco has been put to very good use. It is a very popular item around here. I get asked all the time, hey, can I have the Bronco? Can I have the Bronco? Can I have the Bronco? It has its own calendar and its own email address and all kinds of stuff. It's been really good. So
How was it, Sue? You took it to a conference, right?
It was nice, once we figured out how to put gas in it.
and close the window
That was
and
a little
air, yeah,
interesting.
all those things. But it's been a really good tool for us to have. So thank you again for that. Some small assessment data that we have here. Not really small. It's actually pretty good. 2026 SEV value for this year, $1,568,729. Last year was about $1.4 billion, so we're up about 7.5%. I think that's pretty good. Taxable value was just under $1 billion at $973,773.69. 2025, it was about $904 million, so that was a 7% increase. Our CPI this year was 2.7%. So normally the taxable value goes up whatever the rate of inflation is, plus any new construction or anything that wasn't on the roll before. In 2025, that was 3.1, so the inflation rate went down a little bit, but you can see we got, about 3.5–4% more in new taxable value to the township. So things are being built here. We're getting new houses, new construction, hotels are getting finished. All those are good things. Again, we had 16 petitions at the March Board of Review. We had 17 last year, so that seems to be pretty consistent. Either I'm doing a really good job or a really bad job. I'm not sure which one it is. But
I'm pretty sure we know which.
the people who came in had legitimate questions about their assessment. We were able to answer those and/or help them out if we could. Appeals and tribunal activity in 2025. Michigan Tax Tribunal case with Stellar Hospitality, which is the Residence Inn, is still ongoing. We are in the gathering of information stage. We have, sounds like a September 2026 start to that if we haven't made any kind of decisions. They will add 2026 to that petition, so it'll actually be a 2-year agreement, trial, however you want to look at it, when that time comes. We've started talking to appraisers, and the lawyers have been talking to each other, so hopefully we'll get that one figured out. 2026 protest, the Michigan Tax Tribunal can be made by May 31st for commercial and industrial properties. Residential properties that actually came to our board review have until July 31st to protest if they would like to. Some professional development education. All staff with assessing credentials have completed their 16 hours of Con Ed for the 2026 tax year. We have started to plan which classes will help us out for 2027. I think Beth is going to one rather soon. Isaac won't have to because he'll be finishing up his class. He'll actually get credit for that, so that's good. He doesn't have to double dip. So it's really just me who has to figure out when I'm going to do those things. 2 of our current board members will need to recertify for next year. They have to do that by February to stay current. One of our members did that training this past year, so he's good. We are also in the process of looking for a couple of new board members for the board review to be alternates or possibly even the full-time member, depending on who can be there and who can't. I've never had that many, but it's good because this year we lost 2 in the process, so I had 5. I was like, holy cow, that's a lot, and then the next thing you know, we're looking for more. So if anybody would like to do that, please step up and let us possibly put you through the interview process for that.
And we do have one person that you've interviewed that
One
will be
person, yep,
looking.
so far, and
yeah.
Yep, looks good. So, looking ahead, we'll be finalizing our sales for 2027 tax year here by the end of April. The sales we use for 2027 are anything that's sold between April 1st of '24 and March 31st of '26. So really, those sales are a year old before we even start using them. They do that on purpose. They want to kind of use not necessarily the current market, but something that's a little, that we've already looked at and is pretty concrete. The weather is breaking. Isaac's getting out on his field permits. All the new buildings, we're going to try to make sure we get to our 20% of the township. We're already started that process. And I am about halfway through my land value things already. So as soon as my sales are all in, we'll be, like I said, we're going full speed ahead. Anyway, I'm trying to make it better and more consistent every year. Anybody have any questions for me or the department or?
Ryan, you and Isaac are doing a great job and have been a good addition, great addition to the township. So we really appreciate the work.
Thank you.
And we really enjoy your dog as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the support. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. With that, we will move on to the Parks Commission and Facilities and Recreation report. So we'll go over the report first, and the Parks Commissioners may want to join you or can listen on, and Nathan can go over that. And then we also have 2 agenda items. We have the DNR Trust Fund grant resolution update, as well as the library roof replacement. How are you, Nathan?
Good.
Good.
Nathan Burns, Facilities and Recreation Coordinator. 2 of our Parks Commissioners have joined us tonight, Corey Layton and Ryan Walsh.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Please stop me at any time as I go through the quarterly report. If you have any questions, I'll just try to hit it from a high level. So the East Bay Corners Farmers Market is moving forward. Our application is currently open, closes at the end of this month. We're working with our partners to ensure we've got a good mix of variety at the market as well as programming. We did receive a small grant from the Michigan Farmers Market Association to help support food safety and cooking demos at the market this year. The Holiday Woodlands Natural Area Development is moving forward. A work plan was created, and we're currently working to get some easements so that we can get to a planned future parking area. No work can really take place on the project other than design and planning until we receive our project agreement because this was funded with the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant. As you know, the work at Grace McDonald Park is moving forward. The cornhole and the sledding hill fire pit. We have been working with the contractor that was awarded that and our engineer to do a small scope change. So we've taken out 4 of those 6 cornholes. We've discovered that that area would be better utilized if we irrigate and put in sod so that people that want to bring their own cornholes, because I guess that's pretty important for the professional players, they like to use the wooden ones. And then that area can also be used by other folks if they want to set up badminton or play croquet.
It's a contract change that actually doesn't spend money, so that's a good thing. And I think we mentioned that we were taking a look at that when we were awarded it, and Nathan took back the issue to the Parks Commission, and I think they took a vote even, didn't they, and concurred with leaving out those 4 so that it can be a more flexible area, and people could bring, as Nathan mentioned, their preferred cornhole for those who have them.
Turns out the tournament players are pretty particular. So this will be a good mix to give an opportunity for everyone. So we will save some money in that. We still will be building like a retaining wall that can be used as a seating wall in this area. And then, of course, the irrigation and seed will make that a nice usable space. We did apply for the 26 Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund application for Arbutus. We have an agenda item, just a small update to our resolution to include some wording that the state wanted to see in our application. At Jens Park, we're moving forward with some bathroom upgrades, working with some previous architectural plans as well as an ADA assessment. I think we're going to start by swapping out some of the toilets that we've had problems with over the years. Pine Grove Park, we're looking at improving that sports court to include pickleball and basketball, as well as a full resurfacing of that court. Another agenda item we have is the library roof. We're looking to replace that, and we did receive a handful of bids for that. And then the township parking area. We've just received those bids, so like Beth said, we'll put that on the agenda for next month. And that is the quarterly report, and I think the next item would be the update to the resolution 26-11.
And before you go on to that, I just wanted to give the Parks Commissioners any opportunity if they wanted to add anything or any questions? Okay. Sounds good. You can proceed. Thanks, Nathan.
Right. So the update we're looking for on the resolution, and we kind of thought we had it with the wording in some of our other documents, but the state really wanted to see in the resolution our commitment to that 100% match. So what we're looking to add to that would be committing $75,000 in matching funds for a 100% match. So that's what we're looking to add to that resolution. And we have a copy of the first resolution and the updated resolution in your packet.
You just added a new whereas.
Yep, there's a new whereas, and then down the resolved by statement.
And we're suggesting we don't even update the number on that, that we just note after 2026-11 that it's updated. And we can maybe just note on it when we fill this out that it was, approved. Well, it does say at the correct meeting date, so.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2026-11 updated for the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund 2026 application TF 26-0034 for Arbutus Lake Number 5 Park Phase 2.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, motion is made by Walters and supported by M. Cortade. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, Ann?
Walters.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
And Friend.
Yes. Thank you. And we do work with a really very nice grant coordinator through that project. She's very helpful, so appreciated that and your attention to it. And then you have another item.
One more item, so our beautiful library needs a new roof. So again, we've looked at some former architectural designs. We met with a handful of contractors. Couple considerations, the gambrel section of that roof, so the barn portion, there's 2 layers of asphalt shingles, there's 1 layer of cedar shakes, and underneath that, there's plank boards, and there's gaps in those plank boards, so that section of the roof will need to be resheeted with 7/16 OSB. There's 1 small area of fascia board around one of the chimneys that needs to be repaired. Because there's low pitches on some sections of that roof, extra ice and water guard is going to be used to protect it. And those are the big takeaways. We saw no reason not to go with the low bid from Falcon Roofing. One thing we did discover from being up in the attic, there is a beam up there that might need some attention, so we're working with contractor and engineer to evaluate that and assess whether that repair needs to take place first, before, or after, or during when the roof comes off. It's around one of the chimneys, actually, where the fascia board needs to be repaired. Over a 100-year-old structure, water's been getting in there, and there's just a small section of one of the beams that might need some attention. So we're trying to coordinate that with the roof repair.
Nathan's done a really nice job with the RFPs and working with the contractors as they've come and taken a look at it. And, we want to put this forth for the roofing because we have had several comments that they think that we can do the roofing and do that beam fix later. And so we'd like to go ahead and get them online and started. However, in the next couple weeks here, before they're out on the roof, we'll make sure that that is in fact the case, that it can be done after that. If it has to be done before that, then obviously we'll get a price on that and bring that additional amount back here to the board. But we would like to get this awarded, and so the contractor knows and can get the supplies as well, especially before there might be any fuel costs incorporated into that.
And so we chose a shingle that kind of matches the look that's there now. It's going to have that same color. We didn't want to make any dramatic changes. So it's a very nice shingle. We actually upgraded it from what we were originally looking at. It's a Certainty Grand Manor Stone Gate gray shingle, which kind of mimics a slate look. So it will have the very similar color gray. And then if you look at the roof right now, you'll kind of see the black background lines. So this shingle will mimic that, but obviously be brand new and look a lot better than what's up there now. So we're just looking for a motion to approve Falcon Roofing's bid along with the 10% contingency.
Any questions?
I make a motion to approve the Falcon Roofing LLC bid to replace the roofing system on the East Bay Library with 10% contingency and to authorize Township Supervisor to sign the related contract, submit the budget amendment for the $40,756.10 to the general fund.
Support.
Okay, there is a motion by Bartlett and support by Lyle. Is there further discussion? Okay, all that are in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your work on that, and look forward to hearing about, the fix with Grand Traverse Construction. So, yeah.
I noticed it before, but on the back side of that building, the stucco is off on the top up there and probably needs to be addressed, so you may want to look into that.
On the back side being the west.
Right in the gambrel part, right, you'll see it's white up in there.
Okay.
It's either the stucco's come off or maybe it got something on it, I don't know, but it looks, I haven't gotten close enough to see what the damage might be.
All right, thanks for that, Matt. Are there any other questions?
And then Nathan will be back next month when we'll take a look at that
parking lot.
Parking, yep. We've been getting some bids. I think the last day was today at 2 o'clock, and we put it on here just in case it was, straight cut and dry. But there's some nuances in some of the bids, and Nathan's gonna meet with Garth and kind of go over them and walk the parking lot and so forth, so. Do a little bit more research so we can bring you back a solid recommendation for that one. Thank you, Nathan. It's been great having you with the township. He's been doing a lot of good work and fits in well with the township.
Thank you, Corey and Ron.
Been
So
great
thank
to be
you.
with the Township, yeah.
Good.
Love working with the staff and really appreciate you guys as well, so thank you.
Good addition.
Yep. Nice dog as well. Sadie. All right, so with that, we will move on to planning and zoning. And we have Claire Carner here, and she has 3 agenda items plus her report. The report, and then the America 250 grant, special events ordinance introduction, and the zoning amendment for Boscovich rezoning. Hi, Claire.
Good evening.
First, I do want to let you guys know that Claire spent her 40th birthday doing a presentation to the Board of Commissioners and never once complained about it. So I want to thank you.
With your sash and your crown. Yes, I had a very nice birthday celebration with my East Bay family, so I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to start out with the quarterly report. I won't go into it much detail because I know you have it in front of you, but I'd say starting out kind of a little slower on the development front. We've approved 2 special land use permits so far with the Planning Commission, one for a wedding event venue and one for a Raptor Center. We have 2 zoning amendments. The steep slopes was approved. The rezoning is in front of you tonight for approval. The Zoning Board of Appeals has approved 2 variances. There were only 2 variances in front of them, and they approved both. To date, we've issued 16 land use permits, which is a little bit low for this time, most other years. We've 9 new single-family homes have issued permits for. In short-term rentals, we have 131 short-term rental licenses. As you'll recall, our cap is at 145, so we have 14 available licenses. We just went through the renewal process. We issued 5 licenses. So there is a pretty large gap right now, and I think that was part of the intent behind the ordinance, was kind of the attrition of some of those areas where there were a lot of clusters of short-term rentals. We're starting to see some of those short-term rentals, either the license is not being renewed or the property is selling, and so they don't meet that 1,000-foot buffer. So I think from that perspective of trying to lessen the concentration in certain residential areas, the ordinance is meeting its intended effect, or intended intent. In terms of code enforcement activity, you'll see we don't have a ton of cases this year, the majority of which have been resolved. I will mention, and kind of Bill and I were kind of working through this over the last week, there were a number of cases that were carried from 25 into 2026 that are not reflected in this report. So next quarter, we are going to have the report better reflect all of our active cases, even the ones that have carried over from 2026. So right now, we do have a number of cases that have carried over from 2025 into 2026 that are not reflected in this report. The majority of those are blight related, and so we are working through those. We have, I think, about 7 different enforcements that we're working with our attorney on. We've issued a number of tickets, working with the CPOs on some of the blight and junk cases. And we have a number of different properties that are kind of in process of cleaning up. So we will provide a little bit more detail on those cases at the next quarterly report. In terms of trainings, ongoing, Sam has actually been really helpful in the EPIC permitting system. So the online portal where you're submitting land use permits has been working with Grand Traverse County to get our permitting system kind of in the the customer-friendly shape that we've been looking for. So we're making some progress on that. Sam's been taking a number of trainings and working through that process to kind of better manage that portal so we have a little bit more kind of internal ability to make changes and update. We've done a number of different webinars related to data centers, renewable energy. Sam and I are both going to be attending the National Planning Conference in Detroit. It's in Detroit this year. It's the first time it's been in Michigan in decades, so that's kind of exciting. And then Bill is going to be attending the MTA conference. And we've got a few presentations coming up. And then, as you're all aware, we've got construction starting this spring for the Safe Routes to School and Civic Plaza. So we've been quite a bit of coordination on that, but that's moving forward. And the Corridor Improvement Authority, as you know, public hearing was in March, and we're looking to have potential adoption of that plan in May. So happy to answer any questions.
I think we'd just add a little bit, you've probably seen publicly in the press that the county is looking at their TIF. They have a current policy from 2012. I think that we mentioned that the last time we talked about it. They're looking at updating that policy. Both policies actually call out for an agreement to be in place, or to be in place if they opt out, which is what they're looking to do. So honestly, it doesn't matter which policy. They're not going to be pushing forth the updated policy in a hurry just to accommodate our timeline. They'd rather take longer on that, and that's fine because you can come to an agreement, different things in the agreement from the original policy or the new one, doesn't matter. It can all be in the agreement. So they are, from all ways that we can tell, they don't have universal or support for 100%, which they have done with the Traverse City DDA and the Kingsley DDA. So we are looking at some sort of tax sharing policy in that district, but we do think that we have some ability to get to an agreement that would work for both the county and for the township. And then we'll be also reaching out to NMC coming up as well, and all of those taxing jurisdictions actually. But we'll be trying to get something put together if we can, relatively shortly. And we'll see how that goes. It just depends how quickly people can move and get each respective attorney to go over things. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Claire did a nice job giving a presentation last week on her 40th birthday, and we'll see what goes from there then.
So the America 250 grant, that is a grant that Sam LaSousa was successful in securing for the township. So if you'll recall, we previously were looking at a history intern. It's been kind of something that has been a high priority for a number of years. So we're excited to be moving forward with the successfully securing that grant. So this would be a part-time history intern. We've posted the position. We've received 4 applications so far, so we're kind of working through that. But and you'll see in here kind of listed the specific tasks that we anticipate that the history intern will assist with, but digitization, preservation of some of the historic records, working closely with Tattle, interviews, some video footage, so really trying to take a deeper dive into the history of East Bay Township. Sam is here and I'm sure would be happy to answer any questions about the position, has really kind of put that together and done a nice job with securing the funding. So the ask this evening is to approve the funding for that grant for the round 2 that was awarded to the township. So we're excited about that, and I think the timing works really well with students kind of finishing out their high school, college terms and looking for some internship opportunities.
So we have contacted the colleges. We've been using the app, the Handshake, which is used by colleges for internships, and some different methods, but really reaching out to the colleges is a great way to do that. And we have had some interest in that, so we're looking forward to that. The grant agreement we did just receive late on Friday, and you have a copy of that on your desk. And it is a standard contract that comes from the grantor.
Resources?
What's that?
Did come from the Michigan National Resources.
Yes, yes, yes. And it says Capturing Time, East Bay's Living History, which was the project title. So with that, you do have also I think the job description was in here as well? Or it was linked, yep.
Page 109.
Great.
On page 109.
Okay, I got I got my numbers off here. All right, so we do have the job description in there, and this was pulled up from, you remember we had it in place a year or two ago. We had about 10 grand in the budget for that. But at the time, we just really didn't have quite the capacity to handle the extra intern. So with this, we can do that, especially then with the funding. So we have dusted that off and updated it so that it is aligned with the grant. We do have some office space that we can put this person, during the summer months for the internship. We'll likely probably have to invest in a computer for that intern. Yep. So that's not any additional expense, but it is totaling $21,085. So what the motion that we're looking for is the move to approve the funding through America 250 MI Grant Round 2 as presented, described, and discussed. Authorize the supervisor to execute the related grant agreement to fulfill the America 250 MI grant, and to authorize the history intern job description, compensation, and authorize the related budget amendment for the grant and the project would be what we're looking for. Does anyone have any questions, or is there a motion?
I would make that motion, since you just read it. We did read it.
Okay.
Support.
All right, there's a motion by Bartlett and support by Cook. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
M. Cortade. Lyle. And Friend.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes, and we will move on to your next agenda item, which, special events.
Yeah, so this is an introduction to the special events ordinance. And Mindy, feel free to jump in here at any point, because we started this conversation with the Planning Commission. This was back in September of 2024. Planning Commission had some discussions about reviewing the transient activity ordinance and replacing it with the special events ordinance. So there was a desire to make the ordinance more usable and also reduce the possibility of negative impacts on adjacent land uses and the greater community. I will say that generally, the Planning Commission felt like the special events ordinance has been working well for the different venues that are using it. So we kind of provided them with some detailed information about kind of the number of transient activity permits we issue each year. It's generally around 9 to 12. Timber Ridge is the majority of them. We have Mount Holiday, and then some other users as well. We have on the Louis Rayshaw's property, we have the blanking out, the Farmland 5K. So we have a number of different ones, but there aren't a tremendous amount of events in the township. So I will mention that, kind of speaking to the public comment earlier this evening, we are keeping kind of the definition of special events the same from the transient activity to this one. We are keeping the exemptions the same. So if you look at our existing ordinance, it does exempt social gatherings, family reunions, receptions, picnics, gatherings, and related events lasting no more than 48 hours. So that is kind of in our existing ordinance. We're we're continuing it into the new draft special event ordinance, and I think that's a desire to differentiate between kind of personal events and commercial events, ones that are receiving funds and advertising to the larger community, and also differentiating kind of the one-time events versus the kind of more of a venue. So that's really kind of the goal and what we're trying to get at with this special event ordinance. Obviously, there's some venues that are appropriate for, if somebody wanted to have multiple weddings and they were doing it in more of a commercial capacity, it wasn't, my daughter's getting married on this day, but they're advertising it as an event, then they would need to be approved, not through the transient activity permit or the special event permit. They would go through planning commission, site plan review, receive a special land use permit. So that's kind of how we're treating special events. These are kind of one-off events that are not generally happening at like an event venue outside of the land use approval process. So this is a general law ordinance, so it will ultimately be approved by the Township Board. The Planning Commission did a little bit of work on it, but they didn't hold a public hearing. They're kind of just making a recommendation to the Township Board on this. So in December of 2024, the Planning Commission reviewed some draft language by Fahey Schultz. We were working with them at the time. That was before we brought our new legal counsel on. And so some of the changes that we made to the transient activity ordinance and integrated into this special events ordinance are that we really articulated the community benefits that a special event shall provide. We are requiring documentation showing that the proposed special event is not in conflict with any approved site plan or special land use permit. So that was kind of an issue that we had run into with some. So we, as staff, can't approve anything that is in direct conflict with a condition or something that was part of an approved site plan or special land use permit. This would extend to any organized gathering of at least 200 people. As well as other specific events or activities as outlined in the ordinance. We are putting, another thing that we're adding is that we're putting a limit of 3 special events per private property. So right now we don't have anything in our ordinance that specifically states a maximum. And so that kind of is a little bit of a slippery slope in terms of what's an event venue versus what's, a property that's having a lot of special events. So we're limiting to 3 special events per year. But the caveat there is that if it's a public property, we don't have a limitation. And I think part of the Planning Commission's reasoning was that they didn't want to pick winners and losers with a public property that should be available to everyone. So a special event on a public property would still need to get a special event permit and go through the full review with Metro Fire and Township Emergency Services, but they wouldn't be limited to that 3 per year. One outstanding issue that we've kind of been struggled a little bit to figure out how to address was just Timber Ridge. And Timber Ridge traditionally has had up to 8 special events per year. And so we worked with them, reached out to them and kind of said, how can, and we also worked with our legal counsel. And the recommendation was to build something into the ordinance that allows up to 8 special events per year on campgrounds, private campgrounds with a valid special land use permit. So right now, Timber Ridge is our only one. If in the future we have other private campground, and it requires 40 acres, so that's like a very large site. We don't have other land uses in the township that require that amount of acreage for a land use. If in the future we run into a situation where we have other private campgrounds, it's not appropriate to have that many special events, maybe they want that many special events, we can always go back and make a modification in this ordinance. But our legal counsel feels that this is the best way to kind of carve out Timber Ridge in a way that's legally defensible. So that's our recommendation right now. You've got included in this packet, you have a 1-pager that kind of goes through the general overview of the special events ordinance, what's changing and why, kind of highlighting what I just went through. And then you also have a copy of the 2010 transient activity ordinance, as well as the special events ordinance. So tonight is just an introduction. I believe with the police power ordinance, after this, we would publish in the paper a copy of that. And
Are there any questions for Claire on this ordinance?
The why, I know you said that you were just really kind of updating the language for some consistency, but otherwise, has the existing ordinance, have there been any problems with it?
there have been some. I think it's a little bit confusing just with the name transient activity, and it mixes special events with other kind of activities like a peddler's license or those types of things. So we're trying to update it so it's very much like only event specific. And then also the issue of kind of what qualifies as a transient activity. One example with Lakemore, they, had they were filming a commercial, wanted to have, more boats than what their site plan allowed. And so there's a little bit of a gray area, like, is this a transient activity? Is this, is this something that's permitted? That's just an example, but this gives us a little bit more concrete guidance that this is really focused on events. So it's a little bit more of a narrow focus.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Question. Under what is not included, private parties such as weddings or family gatherings under 24 hours. What does this do, if anything, to Smith and 3 Mile Road?
Yeah, so this really wouldn't apply to them because they are permitted as a special land use permit. So under their special land use permit, they are limited to the number of events that the Planning Commission allowed them per year, which I'm trying to remember, was that 8? It was 8. Whatever their special land use permit says. So that's what they would be limited to. We wouldn't issue a special event permit for them because their special land use permit supersedes this.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Other questions?
I know there was a comment earlier about weddings. And remind me, does our ordinance already for short-term rentals already prohibits weddings?
I don't believe it does.
Okay.
In our short-term rental ordinance.
So is there a scenario now where somebody could rent a short-term rental, apply for a permit, and have a gathering of 200-plus people?
Yeah, and that's a good question. That's something we could kind of work through. I think the way that given all of our existing zoning, short-term rental, special event, we don't regulate a private wedding. So if somebody was renting, if the person that was renting the short-term rental hosted a wedding there, there wouldn't really be any, they wouldn't be regulated under this ordinance. They could host a wedding.
Sam's
If
about to
the
ready to come out of his seat.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to
Okay.
say, no, they're
All right.
limited on their.
Anybody,
visitors.
yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sam. If a short-term rental, if they were advertising, something to that nature, it would be different, but.
Okay.
And if I can just comment, the other part of that too, it would be the owner of the short-term rental sets their rules as well. So they would have to say, yes, wedding events are allowed, or no, they are not allowed. That's
Yes,
kind of
but the
separate.
occupancy, yes, thank you. That's a good point.
Okay. If there's not any other questions or comments, this is for introduction only. However, we could move to notice this in the newspaper and see it again at a future meeting. I don't know that we've made actually a motion to do that in the past. I think we've just said this is the introduction.
Yeah, it
and
would be
then we've
helpful, I
noticed
think,
it.
for staff to just kind of hear, like, if you're generally comfortable with this, if you're looking for us to, go back and make changes or take a closer look at the policies.
You already
That would be
mentioned there are some
helpful.
changes, right, with the Timber Ridge?
And that's in this draft ordinance. Yeah, so we don't really have any other suggested changes at this time, but if there was anything you wanted us to look closer at, or if you had concerns, then we could take a look at that before next month.
Did you have anything, Mindy, from the planning commission standpoint?
No, we hashed this out pretty good. It was multiple meetings that we talked about this. We talked a lot about the private property and how many on the private property versus the public property, you know, because a lot of people were concerned about Camp Graylick, you know, and how many they could have out there and that kind of thing. And, you know, we hashed through many of these points. The number of people was another topic of discussion. So at the planning commission, though, we don't have, at the planning commission, don't have any, it's just a recommendation to you.
General law?
Because it's general law. We did have lots of discussions.
Well, we appreciate you guys doing that because while it is a general law ordinance, obviously this is an impact with land use and kind of integrates and how we're using property and so forth. I would say too, one of the things with a general law ordinance, something to keep in mind is, as we're seeing, if we were to see issues with this ordinance, and we said, oof, we should have maybe tweaked that, or, you know, we do have the ability to update it, and there is not a grandfather, you know, lawful non-conforming. So once it takes effect, it takes effect. So that's helpful.
So you're going to have both ordinances when we're done? Or
This would repeal.
This would replace, yeah.
Okay, because I was trying to figure that out. I'm like,
Yeah, and we were looking through, like, we didn't feel like, you know, the peddler's license, for example, that's not something that we've been approached about. We didn't feel like, you know, we have our food truck ordinance, and we didn't feel like there was really any holes by removing transient activity and replacing it with special events.
I guess another question I was asking is the why. Have special events or previously transient events, transient activities, have they been like a rampant problem? Have we had lots of problems with them?
No, and that's a good question. That's really the reason that we're using the transient activity as kind of the basis for updating it. We didn't want to overhaul it because we really haven't had issues. I understand that. I think that the Iceman, there might have been some issues. This predates me, but, you know, in the last 7 years that I've been here, you know, the parking, kind of everything's run very smoothly. So I think any of our larger events and really all of the events that we've issued transient activity permits have run very smoothly. And so we don't.
kind of solved the problems that we were having when we started it, because there were issues with several of the bigger events at some of the places like Mount Holiday and Timber Ridge. And so I think it did what we wanted it to do, but now, you know, it's been there for a while. We need to tweak it.
Sure.
And so that's good.
Okay.
Still got a while before they get to me.
Okay. Is there, everyone in concurrence?
She didn't, she told me. Hey, you can hear me, my wife was just checking in, she's like, did you get on the meeting yet? I said, no, they're still waiting for me, so. Sorry, thought I was muted.
Okay, so do we have consensus to move forward with noticing this, and we'll see it again?
Yep.
So do we think we'll
Okay.
have it at the May meeting? Is that the intention?
Whatever, sure.
We'll see how the agenda, we've had some really full agendas the past couple of months, so, yeah, but that's the intent. All right, so with that, we'll move on to the zoning amendment 226,
Okay.
which we've seen this before.
This is, so we have had the introduction, and this is an opportunity to approve the rezoning. The applicant is here tonight as well, Nick, and so if you have any questions. But this is to rezone the parcel, it's at the southwest corner of South Airport and 3 Mile Road. It's 2.7 acres in size. It's rezoning it from manufactured housing community to neighborhood commercial. This has been a part of the adopted master plan and future land use map for years. Since at least the 2015 future land use map. So there's been a desire to kind of to develop some of these nodes of neighborhood commercial activity. And so I think this is a great place. It's obviously, as we, I think, discussed last month, there are some environmental challenges just from the wetlands, the floodplain, the creek location, but applicant is well aware of that. And from my perspective, rezoning it from manufactured housing to the neighborhood commercial is a good decision from a future land use perspective as well as from kind of the environmental perspective as well. So you have the option this evening to adopt that rezoning, and I'm also happy to answer any questions. You've got the staff report as well as the application materials included in your packet.
Okay, we have had this before us and had the public hearing on March 3rd. Are there any questions on this? Go ahead, Glenn.
On this property, what about the adjoining property that runs west on Airport Road? Is that gonna also be included?
That will not be rezoned. Nope, just this one.
Okay.
All right, other questions, comments?
Just, this current rain we just had would be a good place to figure out the high water mark. Because there was a lot of water down there in places. Just a joke, sorry.
Sue?
That was going to be my statement with our 100-year flood that we're having again. How is the land looking?
Wet.
It's wet, I'm sure, but so is everything right now.
Okay, any other items? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve zoning amendment 2-26 Boscovich rezoning.
Is there support? Okay. Motion made by Cook, supported by Lyle. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do roll call.
Cook?
Yes.
Lyle?
Yes.
Escortade?
Yes.
Walters? Yes. M. Cortade?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Friend?
And
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Claire. And Sam, thank you for your work on the grant application. Okay, with that, we are going to, Jill has not shot an arrow up here, which I wouldn't blame you for because I did forget that I had requested to move it.
Can we take 5 minutes?
Sure, we can take a quick break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. That's what I thought you had a question, I thought you had a question for the chief, and I was like, well, he can talk to him after the meeting. Didn't dawn on me till we were going through stuff, I was like, yeah.
More about Brian. Sounds like he's got a
Brian? All right, let me just find what page we're at on this. Okay, we're all ready to go back? Yes, we're good? All right. We will come back to order, and we will move to the item number 7 that I forgot to leapfrog forward, and I appreciate your patience. So this is the Holiday Village cul-de-sac. If you'll recall, when the DNR transfer of the property or acquisition of the property, that is Holiday Woodlands Natural Area, part of that was a cul-de-sac area that a few of the lots were retained by the builder. So there's 3 lots that they're developing around that cul-de-sac. Well, in the ownership, what do you call it, like the land description, what am I trying to think of? You know, the legal description, thank you. The legal description, the cul-de-sac is owned by the township through that transfer. So there does need to be some, as it says, incidental water and sewer main extensions there for those 3 homes. So as the Nolan's engineer and the Wade Trim engineers have been working together to determine the best, most efficient way to have that extension, it makes a lot of sense that they would be running that through the portion that we own, which is the center. And so I did contact the DNR Trust Fund because we've had to utilize property before with an easement that we granted further south on that property, and they had to go through and approve that and take a look at it and so forth. I contacted them regarding this, and they said, nope, that this didn't rise to the level that they would need to do that. That as long as the top side, anything that's done to the top side, as long as it is back to the way that it is, they have no issues with it. It is a temporary easement, as they just need to be able to be on that property to put in the extension. So that's what we're looking at. They will be granting us, when they turn it over, a permanent easement for the small portions that are on their 3 lots that have those pieces. But that gets all done with the turnover, not now. That's part of the turnover package that Wade Trim gives us. So you do have the draft temporary easement in the packet. And we have had, this is, as I said, Wade Trim has taken a look at this. It is with our legal counsel right now, and rather than hold them up, I would just rather be able to release it once the legal counsel says it's fine, which we anticipate that it will be. So the request is for a motion to approve the easement as outlined in the draft temporary, and that should say easement, not ordinance. I corrected that somewhere else, but missed it there, which is to be granted upon concurrence with the township's legal counsel. So are there questions on this or a motion?
I make a motion to approve the easement as outlined in the draft temporary easement, which is to be granted upon concurrence of the township's legal counsel.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Okay, there is a motion by Bartlett and support by M. Cortate. Is there further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? Motion passes unanimously. Gosh, that was a really long time to wait for that, but thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. See you later. All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Have a good evening.
Are we going to do the field house as well?
No, we don't have anybody.
Yeah.
We do? Oh,
Superintendent's here.
I'm so sorry. I did not see the superintendent was here this whole evening. You came in later. All right, well, we will, with discretion from the board, we will go to that agenda item, which is the TCAPS Field House and Well House Agreement. And so this was brought to us, I believe it was last fall-ish, that TCAPS was doing the field house. And of course, we have a well house in that area. Working with our engineer, DPW, TCAPS engineer, which was Gordy Frazier, made a lot of sense to co-locate these. And so this draft agreement just puts forward the memorandum of understanding because our well house is located not only adjacent, but connected to their field house. So this kind of sets the terms for agreement. And again, this is with our legal counsel, and so we would do concurrence with legal counsel. It's a pretty straightforward agreement, so I don't think it'll take too awful long to get back from legal counsel, although I haven't seen it yet. The other thing that you should know that isn't part of this agreement, well, it leads it to this agreement, but the BPW at their meeting, TCAPS was, I really appreciated their thinking of us and working collaboratively, and we didn't have a backup generator on this well house, which we would need to get. And so instead of us doing a separate one at a later time, and they needed a generator, we're going to partner with their generator and share in those costs. So the BPW has looked at that and okayed that, and that's run through the BPW and DPW through our operation and maintenance costs. So that's kind of a little bit part and parcel with this, but this is specifically an agreement with TCAPS in East Bay Township. So, and very nice that the superintendent is here. And so if anyone has any questions, I'm sure that either of us are happy to field those. Any questions? Okay, well, the suggested motion is to move to approve upon concurrence from East Bay Township's legal counsel and the TCAPS and East Bay Township Memorandum of Understanding for the field house and well house. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Okay, motion is made by Cook and supported by Walters. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Van Wagner, for being here. We appreciate your work on this project, and we hope that you have a great field house that has a lot of benefit to the students.
Thank you very much.
Take care. All right. With that, we will go back in our packet a little bit. We do have quarterly report. You do have the financial report in front of you. It goes through, you are looking at documents for the fiscal year ending 2025, as well as the first quarter of 2026. And you have the bank reconciliations for you from December through February, so that you're assured that all of the bank reconciliations are done, and any adjustments that sometimes need to happen with those, there weren't any with these particular ones. Some key items from the 2025 year end. Our state revenue sharing was above budget. We had significant grant awards. Interest earnings, which I think everyone's aware of, was quite high, and we're a little superstitious about budgeting with those too. And then we had some other revenues and donations were on the higher side, and that is a lot of the TCAPS, I'm sorry, not TCAPS, TART reimbursement for the OHM engineering. We did have, let's see, 2026 year to date. Had some, it just talks about basically for the first quarter, things are a little bit seasonal, and a lot of our revenues come in later, some come in earlier, so things are tracking as appropriate. On the expenditure side for 2025, you see that most departments are slightly below budget. Any minor line items, we do have the ability to correct between, and let's see, 2026 is looking pretty consistent moving forward. Cash positions, and just the summary is that we have a strong financial position entering 2026, especially based on the 2025 ending amount, which is unaudited at this point, so that can change. We don't expect it to swing a whole lot one way or the other, but it can change. And so you do have the fiscal year 2025 ending in here, and you can see from the general fund, and it's highlighted on page 148 of the packet. Our budget, we were looking at about 215 of positive net revenues, and we're quite a bit different with there, so a bit, and I think I've gone through some of those reasons for that increase at a previous meeting. And let's see, if you go over to Fund 210 for the ambulance, we had about 252, and we're bringing in a bit more there. And really, a bit of that is just some diligent spending. We've been fortunate to have some of our insurance items a little less than expected. Also, some contract services a little bit lower than anticipated. So all of those add up a little bit to create that cumulative effect. In the first quarter of 2026, the only thing I think that you'll see that's a little bit off in 2026, and we'll correct this, is you'll see that our Township Board Department 101 is looking pretty high for the first quarter, but that's really just because there's an errant, that 46,951, which the board passed, really that should actually go into, it's highlighted as well on page 155 under the Department 865. So you can see.
It's been done, it just isn't reflective in here.
Okay, great. So you can see with those done, you won't really see anything too out of the ordinary. So that is, and what follows in your board packet is the bank reconciliations to assure that those are done. And that completes the quarterly financial report. If there's any questions, please let me know. Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move on to the lift station #1 sewer main project. Let me see. First, I want to go over the bond rating, and I want to make sure Dawn can hear me and Brian can hear me.
I can hear you fine.
All right. Yes. Great. So we'll go over the bond information. As you guys know, going through the bond rating, we utilize Benzinski and Company, and one of the things that you do is you have a meeting with the S&P Global. You go over everything with your financials. I don't know, they kind of set me up to feel like it was like, you know, a dental cleaning or, you know, kind of a review by your general doctor or something. So it wasn't as bad as what they made it seem like, but.
Couple hours of grilling.
But the result is they go through all the information, the documentation you provide, the conversation that you've had. They follow up with additional questions, which we get to them. And the process is they give you your rating at, like, say, 9:30 in the morning, and you have about 2 hours to go over it and protest anything within your rating. We had some pretty good exchanges before they even rated on information, and so I think that they were, we didn't really find too much, maybe one small thing that we updated that really didn't change it. You can.
Didn't we do that in the middle of the snowstorm?
Yeah, I think so. But you can see the documents that they give you, the letter that comes that alerts you of your rating. And also, you can see what they put that's available on the web for investors. You can also see the invoice. It's not inexpensive to go through this process. And then you can see some general information about bond ratings and townships that was just researched. We do have a AA bond rating. You can see the definition of that is, which reflects a strong capacity to meet our obligations. We have a low credit risk. We pose a low credit risk to investors. We are financially stable, sound management, reliable revenue sources. We should be able to borrow at favorable interest rates. I can tell you that Andy Campbell was happy with our discussion that we had with the S&P, and he was happy with the bond rating and was anticipated with the AA. I do think that maybe two things kept us from the AA+, and I think that the first one was they noted the level of reserves. They would like to see actually higher. And then also the capital planning, documented in that process that we're going through right now. So we do have that for water and sewer, and then of course we're going through that with Township. So with that explains a little bit of the bond rating. That was the first time I've been through that process. I thought it was interesting, informative. Don't necessarily feel like I want to go through it again tomorrow, but happy to do it. Any questions on that with the bond rating? Okay. With that, we will talk a little bit about where we've been with this. This is a very long project. I think we've been working on it for a few years now, right? From the inception of when we had an issue along this line during COVID, and we decided to investigate it a little further. Wade Trim has been they are, of course, our engineers of record, and they've been our engineering partner in all of this. And we have been doing this in lockstep with Acme Township and their engineers of Gosling Zubek. I almost said the wrong engineering firm. I'm glad I didn't. So it's been a long process to get with the fixes, get grants, collaborating with the county, our federal representative's office to get the $3 million that we have in grants. We've worked with Mark Nettleton, who is very helpful and knowledgeable, as well as Andy Campbell, Don Lund, and as I mentioned, Wade Trim. There's a host of information that came on your cover page. That was pretty much the same information that you've had from the December 3rd meeting. Not much has changed from there. So you had links from December 3rd and February 9th, meeting minutes and video. One of the components of this project is, number one, the agreement that we have with Acme Township that dates, I believe, 2012 sticks in my mind, but I think it's older than that. I think I might be thinking of the county TIF policy. But anyway, the point is it's an older agreement between Acme and East Bay Township that defines our agreement at the 6.6059 and Thank you. And then we've gone through all of the agreements that we have with Mark Nettleton, which have been a host of resolutions, notifications, and most importantly, the agreement that we have regarding the financing that we've agreed to and Acme Township has agreed to. We've done this in a series of, I'd say maybe 2 to 3 joint meetings with them. The one last lingering thing that we have, and the board has, as I put in here, said, okay, we'll do a $1 million contribution, and Acme has said the same thing. We've both worked with Don Lund in making sure we can do that and looking at can we do more. So that's kind of the last question that we have. I have to let Benzinski and Company know tomorrow, so this is not an item that can be kicked further down the road. Because we'll be going out to sell these bonds relatively quickly, and we should be bringing in the funding just about the timing that the bills start to roll in. We have a little bit of, go ahead.
I heard from Brittany today,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the sale meeting, verifying with it. She said Sunday, the 26th, which I was like, okay. And then she said we'll get the deposit that day, and then May 18th, I think is what she said.
Okay.
We'd have the rest of it.
Yep. And we do have a little bit of flexibility as well, although they already have those dates. But you know that we would, because the first billings that we're going for are the $2 million from the county. So at any rate, that is where we are at. Now, one thing I will say is when we're doing the, what did we say it was, 60.49? Is it 60.59? 59, thank you. 60.59 and 39.41, thank you. When we've done this percentage, now that's in our agreement from long ago, and this is also written in to our agreement that we both agreed to, both township boards. This is the agreement regarding the financing of the sewer system improvement project between the Township of Acme and the Charter Township of East Bay. And so our calculations are based on those percentages. The one thing that plays into this is the way the definition is. It says that the project costs, let me find the exact one here, hold on a second.
Like 11,000, is that what, or 11 million is what the original?
Well, so, hold on one second. So what I'm talking about is not the dollar amount, I'm talking about the definition in the agreement. So the definition is of the project cost to be financed, right? So our agreement is that we will share the financing at the 60.59 and the 39.41, okay? So when you take a look, though, at the definition, it says, after deducting the grant funds allocated to the project, so you take off the 3 million, and then the cash contribution, so we take off the cash contribution. The cost of the project is to be financed by the issuance of bonds and shall be charged and paid in a manner at the time herein there set forth. The manner herein set forth is 39.41 for Acme and 60.59 for East Bay. Okay? The issue becomes is that because the cash contribution by definition of this document is before the division, so Acme Township has really taken a larger bite of the apple, right? Well, there are 40, so let's just call this, 60 and 40 for ease sake. While they are 40% of the project, we have put in equal amounts, but equal is not exactly equal, right? 1 million is more of a percentage for their side and less for us than them. So what happens is then you have to factor in, if you factor in that percentage, that their $1 million is 19% of their project, and our 1 million is like 12% of the project, it could potentially, it doesn't get you to a reimbursement of 60/40, according to this. So what does work well is to bring everything to equal standards. So if you do that, you would equalize the percentage that each, not according to sharing, as according to how much it impacts you, right? So as Acme Township put in $1 million, that's 19%. If we match that with 19%, then we stick straight with that 60/40 all the way down the line. So what that would mean is that East Bay Township, in keeping that 60/40, would be putting in about 1.5 million in cash contribution. And so I'll let Don Lund go over this a little bit, but if we proceed with that, which, we've been talking about 1 to 2 million and where's quite the right place to fall, then that kind of fits along that line as well. So Don, are you able to kind of screen your volume or share your screen or so forth?
Good evening, everybody. Real quick, I just want to say that the internet appears to be a little bit unstable. It goes out a little bit, but it comes right back. So if I lose you, I'm going to come right back. But you guys can hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of what Beth is talking about here. And if you guys can see this screen, actually, let me go over here.
Zoom it in.
Yeah, let me do that here. So this is actually what I want to show you. So if we go back to the beginning, just as Beth described. We have a project cost, we removed the grant funds, it left a project of about 13.2 million. When you guys discussed the
Okay, we're going to have you repeat
you
that one more
each
time.
agreed to put in $1 million. Okay, can you see my screen?
We can see your screen. Can you repeat that last little bit?
Sure. So the project's 13 million, and each community was going to put in $1 million, which left 11 million to borrow. The interest rate that is settled on the bond market is 4% at 20 years. So if you look at that debt payment, amortizing that schedule, the debt payment would be $824,000 rounding. So when you look at each community's responsibility, you kind of work through the math. We start with the 13.2, we give the 60.6% split to East Bay. The total project obligation is a little over $8 million for East Bay. Doing that same process, it's a little over $5 million for Acme. If each of you put down $1 million, that would be about 12.5% of the project obligation of East Bay and about 19.2% for Acme. If you followed, I'm going to highlight this green area here. If you followed the current agreement and split that at 60.59 and 39.41, East Bay's payment would be $499,788. Acme's payment would be $325,081. If you actually calculate it where you look at the percentage properly of the project that each community paid, East Bay should be paying $515,000 and Acme $309,000. You can see that each of these scenarios total the $824,000, $870,000. So what I was describing to Beth when we were talking earlier is we know that the board had contemplated putting between $1 million and $2 million down. So if you actually look at the project and try to put these 2% percentages on the same equity basis, and why would we do that? Do you want me to repeat something, Beth? Or do you have a question?
Just a little bit there.
Okay. So if you put everybody on the same equity basis, East Bay would actually need to pay a little bit more. They would need to put $1,537,427 down. You can see the payment percentage, down payment, would be the same. And if you go look over at the blue and the green boxes again, you can see that putting that type of down payment down, the East Bay's payment would be $475,828, equaling the split, and is Acme as well. So Acme would not be unfairly disadvantaged, quite frankly, because they put more of a percentage down on the payment, even though your agreement reads this way up here. So really, our recommendation is to consider putting $1,537,427 down. It puts everything on the same percentage basis, and this makes it much easier in the future. Let's just say administration changes. Let's say the board changes, or the players in this decision change. It's going to be hard in the future to try to remember how to allocate this, because really, even though the agreement says 60.59 and 39.4, is that really fair? I guess that's a board decision to determine that, and along with your attorney. So I wanted to highlight this, saying the easiest way to clean this up is actually put down a little bit more, which is in line with what the board was questioning. You've got a lot of things at play here. You've got a healthy utility. However, with cash reserves, however, your bond rating, one of the things that came back as possibly moving you down from a AA plus was cash reserves. But we also need to be sensitive to that cash reserve balance. We need to be fair to the ratepayer. We also have a very sensitive environment in Michigan with an aggressive attorney firm looking at cash balances. So we need to strategically look at all this. And I think this is a really good compromise. We're kind of putting a little bit more down, which I think some of the board had questioned. We're putting it on a same equal playing basis. And let's say, for example, I want to show you something. This project most likely, I'm not an engineer and I haven't quoted this project obviously, but isn't probably going to come in at exactly $16,210,247. Let's pretend if this comes in at 18 million. We're obviously, we're not hoping for that, but I want to show you that when you put down on the same equity basis, the bond payments move with that. So when you come into the problem of, okay, we didn't exactly come into the numbers that we agreed on in this ordinance, it doesn't matter. It automatically self-corrects. If we come in at 12 million, it automatically self-corrects that we're putting everybody on the same payment basis and the same equity basis. So it really cleans up that issue. It is a good balance between what, I think you can spend down a little bit more than the 1 million. We were being conservative and we still need to recognize and be conservative that we do have aggressive capital improvements coming in the future that are needed. We have a somewhat aged system nearing 60%. We know that there are some large projects looming out there, so we definitely want to be sensitive to that, but I think this is a good compromise for your consideration.
So
do you guys have any questions on that?
I just want to know in that top table, what Don's showing you with, if it stays right at 1 million each, right? What she's saying is, if you were to do it, understand that this document that both townships agreed to, calculate our payments based on the green, okay? That's legally what we're going to do. That's what we have to do. However, what we're saying is because each township put down a different percentage, it doesn't really end up being fair. What is fair, so to speak, is what's in blue, where you're truly getting a fair shake from each. So right now, if we continue to keep it at $1 million, it actually would be more beneficial to East Bay Township, and it would be disadvantage to Acme Township.
I was just curious. So the numbers in the red, that's the annual total payment due with the breakout between the two townships?
Correct.
What's the impact on the interest portion of that payment for the additional cash contribution? Do you have that breakout?
I don't. I could do that real quickly. I actually don't have the amortization schedule between the two. I just did a quick payment.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to remember the numbers we were looking at earlier. Let me think.
I mean, isn't it just going to reduce the?
Well, that's not exactly right. I mean, it's not showing your exact interest savings because you've paid down more up front. So there's a lower principal piece too.
Right. I mean, it's going to be a lower payment.
Well,
Right.
You did
So if you
amounts earlier today, Dawn.
yeah. I can do it and tell you in total. Hold on. Well, because I'm not paying down though. That's not going to be right because I'm paying down each year. I I can let you know what that would be. I can't remember the exact numbers when we looked at that earlier today.
Well, and the reason I was asking, if you scroll down, okay, yeah, so this table, so you're saying that, remind me again, this solves for the blue or the green?
The agreement? The agreement determines the breakout in green.
Oh, they're both the same on the bottom one. Okay. But I guess under that scenario, with the savings for the additional East Bay contribution up front, if I'm reading this right, it would both benefit us and Acme. Right,
It takes the total cost across the board.
right.
And even, we looked at, like, okay, what if we have, as Dawn showed, like, what if we have a change order?
Yep.
How are we making sure that that change order is getting hit with the right percentage all the way across? And everything works until you get to us assuming that we're both throwing in $1 million and we're both taking advantage of that, and that's not the case. We want our $1 million to go to our percentage. And so that's what happens in the lower one. So if we are at between $1 million and 1.5 right now, that's kind of disadvantage to Acme. That's not fair to Acme.
Sure.
Okay? If we're over that 1.537, then we're putting in a higher percentage, then we would, in order to be fair on that same equitable manner, we'd have to go back to Acme and say, you need to put in more than $1 million. That's not gonna work for them, because they were having,
Sure.
$1 million was their top. So if we put in more than 1.5 up to 2 million, then we're kind of subsidizing them. So 1.5, what is that, 1.537?
427.
5, yeah.
5 pennies.
It, that kind of sets it right where it is fair.
No, it makes sense.
Then you don't have, anything in the future, you're not trying to scramble to recalculate everything.
And I think, and I did mention, we'd talk about questions, if anyone had questions and all the answers, and Matt did have some questions for Dawn. I think some of them were related, she got back with you, correct?
Yeah, they're related to the same topic.
And some of them too were based on, we're doing 20 years here. Some of them related, I think we looked at 10-year too.
Well, that was my only concern, is if these were the numbers we had to work off of.
These are
They're in here as 10-year, not 20-year in some places, so
That's-
it's tough to
Well, the
make it
December,
work out.
yeah, the December packet that those numbers were from was when we were debating how many years to go. So were we looking at 10 or 20 years? Because part of the decision from the December meeting was that it would be for 20 years.
Well, the crux of it all, in my opinion, and I didn't realize that's the way that was written, but unfortunately, that's poorly written it's not equitable to everybody.
That's based on the,
I know.
yeah.
But if truly it were equitable, let's just say we wanted to pay down $4 million, Acme's number shouldn't change because they've got $4 million to bond. Our 7 just goes to 4, and that's the way it should be broken out. But that's just different, I guess.
And both boards have agreed to that.
Yeah, so you've got,
We're fortunate in that really where we're looking at that creates a really even playing field and consistent with the previous document is about where we were looking at being. So it's about that, between 1 to 2 million.
Between the two, yeah.
So,
But again, the equity piece, is, I understand it. I think the numbers work out. I'm good with what's being proposed. But, under a scenario with this same calculation, if we wanted, under Matt's suggestion, wanted to contribute 4 million, we could, but ultimately, they would be benefiting inequitably.
you could, we would have to.
It would be the other way around.
We would have to redo the agreement.
Right.
We would just.
you would want to redo this, yes.
Why would they be benefiting? Because the interest rate for the whole bond went down?
No, because, so 1 million, think of it this way. 1 million to them is a lot more of that project to them. 1 million to us is less.
Yeah, but we're being penalized because we decided we're gonna work together, and we're strapped because we can't pay more off, so we're gonna pay more interest because we can't contribute anymore.
So,
I mean, that's the simple bottom line of it.
go ahead, Dawn.
I was going to say you could contribute more, but my recommendation would be you would have to go back and change this agreement. You also have the ability to pay the bond down in 9 years. You've got a call in 9 years. So after you do or don't do the projects that you have before you, you can decide if you want to pay more of this bond down. And then, of course, at that time, you would need to fix the agreement, in my opinion. The reason we're trying to make a balance of keeping cash reserve is because the projects you have coming forward, if you don't spend at the total rate that you've got projected on your capital plan, it's possible you won't need to borrow again. Hopefully, you can pay out of reserves. Anytime you go out for a bond, there's extra costs to do that. I mean, just to get your bond rating is an expensive endeavor. It's time-consuming and expensive. And so the thought was to try to balance paying down part of this project, of course, but preserving your financial flexibility, quite frankly, for the large capital improvements you have coming in the future that most likely East Bay will just be a part of. There is one project Acme could contribute to as well, but you've got some larger capital improvement projects that you would have the financial flexibility to pay cash.
I mean, remember too, you could say, well, we could put 3 or 4 million or whatever, right, to this. But you've got to look at what your long-term plan is. You've got to look at where your reserves are. We're already hearing from a bonding agency that they would like to see our reserves more in line with some of our industry peers. So, do you really want to drain down that cash, then have to go out for a bond later when you've just had a bond comment like that? That's not going to improve your ability to bond at all.
May not be able to because our debt
Well,
ratio would be.
That's what I was going to say. There are two things. Is the redoing of the old line I don't see what we're talking about, how we're even going to be able to bond that, because that's what her numbers say. We're going to go into a negative cash flow situation. And so when that comes up, how are we going to get a bond rating when we're in negative cash flow and don't have any cash reserves left?
We'd have to look at that table, but because I don't think with the 20 years, and when we were looking at the 1 to 2 million, and Don, you might have that information, but I think we were fine into the future, correct?
Yep, so when you moved that down to 20 years, of course, it helped your debt coverage ratio, and that's why I recommended that in December, to consider a longer bond term. If you were to pay down the 1.5 million today, and your cash balance would hover right around between 8 and 8.5 million by 2027. You do have aggressive capital planned right now, 28 through 2030, at about 15.3 million. If you were to do all that, you would need to bond again. Your debt coverage ratio would be healthy enough to bond for that, but we're still you would still want to balance all that. You would have some projects you could pay for cash, and if you did end up doing all projects as stated, you would still need to borrow.
Remember, I was just going to say one thing real quick. This is a balancing act, right? There's a lot of things that you're juggling here. And would it be best to have the shortest term possible, 10 years? Yes. Would it be the best to put the most cash in as possible? Yes. Do we need other projects done in the future? Yes. But we have to balance all of those. And so it's titrating risk. It's keeping your balances where auditors, financial, bond ratings want to see it, and being flexible and having a plan at the same time. Matt?
Well, and you hit part of the nail on the head too, as far as the old, redoing the old line, is if we have to bond that, how's Acme going to be able to afford it? They can't hardly afford what they're doing now.
And they are worried about that. But part of the thing in the capital improvement plan that Brian has given us with those amounts, they are the most drastic scenarios that he has given us. And so, excuse me, but he also doesn't want us to be caught short, right? So again, as Dawn mentions too, as we move forward through this and we are able to televise that line and see, maybe it doesn't need to be done from stem to stern, maybe portions of it need to be done. And we've got that project up on 31 as well. So as we start to look at those things, 8 years goes by like that. I mean, it really does. And then we're in a potential time when if some of those have been half the cost, well, then we put that to the bond. And yes, there's an expense to doing that, but there's also an expense to be caught short on cash, sorry, I lost my train of thought. There's an expense to be getting caught short on cash and not being able to have the money for the projects as they're needed to be done.
Yeah, I'm starting to, I get it. I really do. I've never been in favor of doing that second line, so that's another thing. But that's another argument for another day. My other question, though, is, it's been mentioned that we can call the bonds in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all of them? Part
No,
of them?
you can do a portion of them.
Again, though, is it going to have to be equally split
I don't
with Acme?
believe-
Or can we just call our portion?
So I will check with Mark Nettleton tomorrow, but the way that I'm reading this is, it's the project cost that's killing us, the definition of the project cost to be financed. I don't believe that once the project cost is financed, and we'll know those costs, and those are going to be 60/40, then what money we put towards it would go towards our 60%. And I tried to get Mark for tonight, but he couldn't tonight, but I can get on the phone with him in the morning. Go ahead, Mindy. Go ahead.
But this is our bond, so even if Acme doesn't pay theirs on, it's still on our credit rating, it's still on our
They're still paying
debt.
us so we
It's
can
still
pay
our
that payment.
debt.
It's our bond, not Acme and East Bay's.
So even if we paid off our portion of it, we're still have that debt, right?
Yeah.
Still gonna get the debt.
But we're bound by this too. It says if the bonds are callable, either township may pay to East Bay in cash in increments equal to the minimal denomination of the bonds, the principal amount of any bonds which are subject to redemption prior to maturity. Let me go further and see if it says, and in such event, East Bay shall call said bonds for redemption at the earliest possible date, provided that such advance cash payment and credit shall be limited to the amount given for the amount of the bond.
Hey, Dawn, can you pull your sheet up again, please?
Sure.
It is specifically Acme debt service payments. Major service payments.
I was just looking at some of the math that you've got in there.
Yeah, do you want me to walk you through it?
Go. In no event, this is all talking about the callable bonds in here, in no event shall Acme be obligated to pay any portion of the East Bay share of the cost of the project. In no event shall East Bay be obligated to pay any portion of the Acme share of the project. But remember, those shares are determined by that earlier definition, and so that's what we're caught with. But that also protects us from, if we were to put $3 million, $4 million on it later, it would go to our portion. It cannot go to Acme's portion. So we would not have to redo this agreement.
But back to what Mindy has said, if we pay off our portion in full, Acme does not. East Bay is still making the payment of the bond from Acme's paying it to us.
The revenue,
And it
yes.
still sits on our debt for bond
Yeah,
rating.
well, it's always been on our debt. We've known that from the beginning.
No, I think
Yeah.
it does need to be, the first part needs to be rewritten. So if we have to bond together again, it's not a 60-40 split. It's after, you know what I'm saying? And so we pay down more, we don't have to fund them too, as that's what the.
Well, this is only for this bond. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's not our sewer agreement? but
No.
just
This is
one
just for
project.
this project.
Okay, well, then
Yeah.
let's just make notes that.
Yep, this is
And
just.
it's going to get corrected because.
Because it
not fair.
is, that goes into Project A, it has like a description of the project, and it's just this project. So I think we are good with, now we are held to that definition, but we are good on the prepayment when you get into the callable, that if we were to put 2, 3, 4 million down, it could not go to Acme's portion of it.
I'm just going off of what you're reading, but that definition, we don't have an attorney to interpret that, but.
Oh, I did today.
Well, I've heard you say repeatedly out of there, project cost.
Mm-hmm.
The project cost is 13 million.
No.
Then there's financing costs.
The project cost is 16 million something.
Well, yeah, or 16 million before the 3 million.
No, listen, don't worry about the money. Listen, after deducting the amount of the grant funds allocated to the project and the cash contribution, so after deducting those, the cost of the project to be financed by the issuance of bonds, so that's the interest and everything, shall be charged and paid to the townships in the manner set forth. We're at a 60-40.
So whatever's left after the down payment then has to be split 60-40.
Yes, and that's what is getting us is the down payment.
Okay,
But
okay.
luckily, where we get to that equal mark that evens it all out is pretty realistic for us.
Dawn, is that number that you've got calculated there for the 785, that's the net annual payment obligation for the bond for 20 years, correct? It's a fixed amount?
Correct. If you put down the 15.
Right.
337, yeah. Yes.
I'm not a bond expert, but is it safe to assume that your first year's payment is heavy on the interest, light on principal?
Correct. That's typically
front-loaded
what happens.
interest.
Well, your first year payment, the interest will be based on when you take the money out. So it might be a light interest year payment. Let's say you take it out in November and your fiscal year is December. But what I think you're asking me is, in general, what usually happens in a bond repayment, the interest is higher in the earlier years, the principal's lower, and as you pay more of that principal down, pay back more of that principal, the interest becomes lower and the amount going towards principal becomes higher.
So at year 8, when the bond is callable, it may not be real appealing for us to call the bond because we're already so deep into the interest at that point.
I mean,
Really, the interest component at year 8 and beyond is going to be such an insignificant amount, you're going to
I
ask,
don't think it's going to be insignificant.
You've still got another, 12 years?
Right, you would still have another 12 years on that.
but it's going down. You've probably paid of the term, you've probably paid in well over 60% of the interest by year 8.
Can I interject this
Yeah.
too, though? The other problem with some of that is, this isn't a straight amortization
No,
deal when
it's
you
not.
bond. If you looked at this, it starts out at 2.7 as the coupon and ends up at 4.6. So it changes every year, is all I'm saying. And so if it's light in the beginning, it reduces some of that interest at the beginning too.
You're going to want to analyze that when and if you decide you do want to spend down. Let's say the capital projects don't come in where you think they're gonna be, and you've got cash where you feel like it's wise to use that to spend down, that's gonna be analysis at that time. What could we get on our interest on that money? What are we saving in interest, and so forth. Right now, in my opinion, what is really driving this is trying to keep this fair.
Dawn, we lost you after what my opinion is.
So my opinion is one of the biggest drivers is trying to keep this fair. Because although your agreement is written like the green up here, which would benefit East Bay, if you read the agreement, the intention, I think, of both communities is not for one to be disadvantaged over the other, because there's very specific wording in there that says, in no circumstance will East Bay pay Acme's share, and in no circumstance will Acme pay East Bay's share. So I think the intention of both communities is more like this down here. However you get to that point, which is either changing the agreement, which could get a little messier, or putting more of a down payment for East Bay at 1,537, which is more in line with what I'm sensing some of the board members wanted, which is paying more down than just the $1 million. When we talked before, you guys were trying to decide between $1 million and $2 million. This splits that perfectly, really. It just happens to work out that way. We pay a little bit more down. We're being sensitive to our cash balance for the future, and we're keeping everybody on the equity basis that I believe, reading the agreement, was actually intended.
Any other questions? So I will, go ahead, Glenn, if you have a question.
Well, I don't know if Matt said it, if I didn't understand him. You talked about taking say, $4 million and putting it away in a separate account. Is that what you were getting at, or no? Anyhow, what I'm saying is that if we've got to do it this way, which I think is the craziest thing I've ever seen, we take $4 million, put it into an account. Let me finish. And that stays there until the board, and there's a resolution or whatever that would stay there until the board decides, would have to vote to pull it out. This stuff is sitting with $9.3 million is crazy, and paying the interest.
Glenn?
This thing was the craziest thing I've ever seen, it turned out.
No, Glenn, I think maybe.
Somebody should have caught this damn thing before we got down to the finish line.
Glenn, this is, well, let me tell you, you sat here, both boards sat here, we have excellent counsel, we have all kinds of, this is a quirk where the boards both said $1 million and $1 million, we'll put it in, without the ramifications of, hey, $1 million's different for each person. And, you know, as we look at the fine line item, that's how it's affecting it. Well, we can correct that easily. It's not a huge deal. And the issue of saying, we're gonna take all the cash we do and put this in, it's a little like saying, on a personal level, I'm going to do everything I can and pay off my house, but yet my house is crumbling down around me because I can't make improvements and I can't save for my retirement. I mean, you've got to juggle several things at one time. You cannot cash drain yourself for a project like this. You will be screwed when you try to have some other sewer line that comes up leaking and you need a several $1 million repair. You won't be able to bond for it. You won't have the cash for it. You've got to balance these. And I think that you know, we can certainly take a look, especially as we have a little time in taking a look at some of these other really antiquated lines. I mean, you guys, we're talking about sewer. We've got a 50 to 70-year-old system. You want to tell me what huge infrastructure we've invested in? Let me rephrase that. We've got a 50 to 70-year-old system. And if you look back at the last 20 years, we haven't had a lot of huge projects to make sure that these lines are, you know, where they should be. So now we're sitting with 50 to 70-year-old lines, and yet you want to drain the cash down and be ready for what? Having 70 to 100-year-old lines and then not have the cash to fix them? This is one project.
I know, but to,
I'm not saying, I will let you get to that. I'm not saying that minimizing your interest costs and utilizing your cash isn't a good thing. What I'm saying is you're not putting it into perspective, the larger scope. And you can leave us in a bad spot if you do that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, to kind of feather off of what I think Glenn was kind of saying too a little bit, is that these three major projects that all our assumptions are on is, you know, the 1.9 million for the whatever, and it's got 6.8 million for the new line or the old line, and a $5 million CIPP project. That has not been discussed in full here. The middle one kind of has been. And that's part of my frustration, is we've got to make this decision on these dollars based on, oh, well, you're going to spend $2 million down the road. For what? Do some of you know what that is? Some of us, I asked, and that's why I got it. But other than that, we don't know what that project is.
We've gotten those lists from Brian every time we've talked about the rate analysis.
But it wasn't brought up that way when we started discussing it. This didn't show up, those numbers didn't show up until the December 2nd meeting in this packet. That's when the determinations become a little different. And that's my frustration, is that I'm not saying it's been hidden, but it's just not been discussed enough. Those are board decisions. And we may not decide to spend $2 million on that project on South Airport Road.
So, and I appreciate your comments. I would say that those didn't come up in December, because I know Brian had those numbers way before. I asked him during COVID for a lot of different projects. Now, not all of those were known during COVID, but we've also had rate analysis done between now and then. And Dawn and John, when John was still alive, went through a lot of those projects. So those have been out there and been
Yes, but
discussed.
they weren't brought to this board for
Sure they
discussion.
were, absolutely.
They were
When
not.
when we talked about, I mean, we can move on from this, but like when we did the Curidan Place, that was up on 31, and we did it just for the pressurized portion. We said at that time, we need to do the gravity feed at some point in the future. So that's one of the CIP
Yeah, but
that's
this
been
board
in
didn't say,
there.
okay, yeah, let's do it that way.
We were all at the meeting, and Brian talks about it, and you're right, there's not a board motion on that, but we are trying to plan for those things.
Look, I'll just say from my point of view, I think, you know, the task at hand sounds like there's consensus around it. I would support the equity second option there. I think it's kind of the best case here. The thing that I want to remind everybody, because I think it gets lost sometimes, is that we do have a significant contribution from the county with whatever federal money is coming into this, which is, I don't want to say it's a once in a lifetime, but I think under the circumstances that well has gone dry. So it is a nice contribution to be able to kind of get this out of the way. I think for all of us, this thing turned into a lot more than we probably wanted to bite off, and got well down the road before we all realized how expensive of an endeavor this was. It's got to happen. You know, the horse has left the barn at this point. You know, we've got a lot into this, and, you know, can't give up on that $3 million that's out there. So got to plow forward. I think, at least from my point of view, you know, I probably share some concerns about, you know, obligating East Bay Township to this level of borrowing, which, you know, is not something we're used to doing a lot. But, you know, given the rate that we've got, and everything that Dawn, I'm really appreciative of her financial analysis and advice here, think that it's probably the most prudent thing to do, and, you know, would support kind of keeping cash reserves intact for other things that are going to come up for sure. It's not an if, it's a when. So, yeah, and I guess I just roughly kind of ran some numbers here. It's not a number to sneeze at by any means. But to borrow, for East Bay to borrow $6.5 million under this scenario. Level setting, this is very basic math, but it looks like would be obligating to about $74,000 a year in interest cost over a 20-year term. Now, that works out, if you do the math, over 20 years to $1.5 million. It's real money, but, there's an option to kind of get off of the train at some point halfway through this. It can be analyzed again.
Yeah. One thing I would say is when we did the Cured and Pipe Place up on 31, we did that really, it was, the secondary reason was engineering. The primary reason was because Acme was on that line, and we wanted to make sure they were a participant in that line, and they were doing getting ready to be on a different line. So we did, though, think engineering-wise, we didn't have hard proof, but same type of analysis, what been experienced there and so forth. When we did that Cured and Pipe Place, and Brian can attest to this, we were very fortunate we did it. They were up there, they took a pin and went straight through the line. We have had evidence of this line being in bad shape. So I don't think this isn't a road we would have gone down, no matter had we known. You never know the engineer's costs until truly the bids come in, the proposals come in. It was an expensive cost on the engineer's proposals, and we still stepped down this path. And while this has been a pain in the, if I wasn't on television, you know what I would say, I'd still say it's well worth it. And thank God this board is doing it, because I'm going to tell you, you don't want to be in the position where there's a huge break.
I was going to say, you're not getting the phone calls. She is.
Yeah, right.
I'm used to those, that's all right.
So although I would like to see East Bay pay more, I am glad to see that the percentages are consistent for the two, to go to the 1.5. I still would like to go more, but I understand.
I think the clerk made a motion.
Did you make a motion?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Can I ask you to add something to it, though? I'm okay with this, but I do think that needs to be corrected, so when we go down the road, we don't have that.
Wait, remember though, I think if this were a standing document, I'd say you're right. This is just for this project.
So can I interject? Moving forward, can we create a new document that can live for next projects?
I think you would just create it when the next project happens. Yeah. Mindy?
Didn't we do on rate study analysis that was specific for this agreement to make sure that the percentages were correct? So that if we did another project in the future, we're going to do that again to make sure the percentages are correct?
So what we did was, we were due to take a look at rates anyway, and so we combined this project with it.
Not rates, percentages. Like how much of the line is Acme and how much of the line is East Bay?
Oh, so they did, but that actually was still, what we did was we took the older lines, and it says it'll be updated. Right, Brian, you can speak to that, right, Brian? Brian's like, I've been here all night.
I'll be sleeping.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep, I agree with what you were saying.
I like
That's the safe bet, Brian. But we took what was in the agreement, we looked at what update, it was really fell in line still correctly as it was on the older agreement, right?
Yes, and you're talking the percentages, the 60/40, correct?
Yep.
Yes, yeah, and that's about what we were using originally based on the agreement. And I know that Mark Nettleton, to some degree, John DeVozo, and Noah, and several others have gone through that to make sure that is the current percentage that is being used by each township through that line.
But my point is that if we go back and do another project, that same exercise is going to be done again to
We
get
can,
the
sure,
percentage.
yeah.
So that we can't make
Right.
a
That's right.
long-standing agreement that says these are the percentage, because that could change.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was my
Right,
point I was
development
trying to make.
changes those percentages down the road.
Because what we do, is say we have another large project, 5 years, just for silly number sakes. What we would do is say, okay, we're basing it on the agreement we have in place, the sewerage usage agreement we have in place. Let's go back to look at that document, which is what we did this time. Are those still relevant? The engineers weigh in, planners weigh in, and then we look and see if that makes, still the numbers make sense.
In reality, those can change by a decent amount in 1 year based on one large development that goes into one township versus another. So it's just a good practice to verify those percentages before you embark on a big project like that and sign agreements.
Can I just ask, I think it's probably for Dawn. So in 8 years, if we decide to call our portion of the bond, because we have another large project coming forward, can the township leverage that amount and put it into the new bond? Whatever, like, we'll say that it's at, I don't know, 800,000 is what that would be in 8 years, just for numbers. Instead of paying off that 800, can the township leverage by putting that 800 into the new bond, or does it have to be paid off in full? I don't know if that's even a smart question.
Not a Dawn question, it would be Mark or Andy's question.
All right, well, I knew it wasn't my answer. So.
Yeah. But I'm just saying.
But I wanted to ask the question.
She's not the one that would tell you that. It would be.
Maybe someone knows more than I do at this table, but I thought I would just.
I do think, though, to your greater point, another project, they would do exactly what they did with this, which is, okay, here's the resources, here's the project, here's the partners, what's the life of the project, what's the best funding mechanism? And that happened on this project very early on.
I just would hate to see two bonds out there that the township is still footing years down the road. I'd like to see that the one is gone before we would start another one, if that's possible, instead of having two running concurrently.
Well, but,
Well,
and
and in the 20 years that I've been here, we have paid off several sewer and water bonds.
Exactly.
So,
because I think
when
when
we
we
had several on the books.
I think we had 6 when we came in,
yeah.
right.
And I also think too, while one sounds better than two, you've got to look at the analysis of it,
Sure.
right? So what's the interest rate? What are you accomplishing
There are many
with it?
factors. I just was curious as to the feasibility of it.
Sure. Okay, so.
I'll second your motion.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a first and there is a second to approve commitment of $1,537,427.
No, the amount that Dawn has, because what you just said was not it.
Right.
Oh, $1,537,427.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's what I said. No, not doing 5 cents. We're not worried about the 5 cents.
Anyway, that's the number.
Further discussion. Okay, Ann, we'll do a roll call vote.
Cook.
Yes.
Cortade.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
M. Walters.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
And Friend.
Yes. Okay, well, this has been a long road on this project. That is correct, so.
Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate it, guys.
Brian's job to keep you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
I think we used the other items on the agenda earlier, so we don't have any more items.
That's great, because I had almost lost my agenda, but here I found it. So we do have another opportunity for public comment. We have worn down the public, and there is no public here. So with that, we have an upcoming meeting date in May. I do have the appointments on the May meeting. I had told you they'd be on the April, but we were still conducting interviews. So we have those on the May meeting. So with that, we'll see each other May 11th, 2026. There's no objections, we stand adjourned. Everybody have a good night.